At the end of the Ice Age, I accumulated tens of billions of supplies. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 351 The Crashed Liang Yu. In anger, Liang Yu kicked open the wooden board blocking the door. The two people in the room were taken aback. Wu Chengyu, who was doing ugly things on the bed, looked back sharply. Seeing that the person who came was Liang Yu, his face suddenly turned pale. Teacher Liang, why did you come here? Liang Yu looked at the expressionless woman in front of him and saw the half-boxed lunch on the table and suddenly understood everything. Her mind went blank because of the excessive anger and shock. She didn't know what to think at this time. Her student, the student she worked so hard to protect in the last days, actually used the food she had finally sent to do this kind of thing. But Wu Chengyu was stunned on the spot. He didn't know, while Liang Yu came here suddenly. As soon as he gritted his teeth, it's like this anyway, so it's better to have a showdown. Anyway, Liang Yu is soft-hearted, maybe she can forgive herself. Mr. Liang, I'm a young man and I have my own needs. I hope you can understand. Besides, I didn't force her, it was her own will. Right, say something. He patted the woman's face. The woman stared blankly at Liang Yu, then nodded numbly. Even if she was discovered doing such a thing, there was no shame in her eyes. Now she only hopes to survive. Morality, propriety, righteousness, and shame had long been left behind. There was no expression on Liang Yu's face. The excessive shock and anger caused her to hang up a bit. She just looked at Wu Chengyu coldly and asked, didn't you say there's not enough food? Then you still use it for this kind of thing? Wu Chengyu's face changed slightly. How this food came about, of course Liang Yu couldn't know. After Liang Yu left, the order among the students became easier, and the person with the big fist had the final say. Relying on his stature and strength, Wu Chengyu assembled a few students who could fight and took control of the entire group. So not only can he be full, but he can also have extra food in exchange for the services of the women in Zhujia town. Wu Chengyu gritted his teeth and shouted to Liang Yu, Mr. Liang, as long as you obediently provide us with food, wouldn't it be fine? Why bother so much? Anyway, you can only give us insufficient food. Don't you want us to find a way to survive? In this case, what we do with these foods is none of your business, right? Liang Yu staggered back a few steps, as if struck by lightning. Her chest rose and fell violently, and she pointed at Wu Chengyu, speechless for a long time. Mr. Liang, can you go out first? Are you disturbing me here? Wu Chengyu was disturbed halfway, and felt very upset. Anyway, they have been discovered, so they simply smashed the cans and smashed them. He had eaten Liang Yu's soft-hearted character to death. And knew that, even if he did this, Liang Yu couldn't bear to let him live or die. After all, he was Liang Yu's student. How can the kind teacher Liang be willing to see his students die in the last days? Liang Yu closed her eyes, turned her head and rushed out. She took off the hat on her head and let the cold snow blow on her face. But no matter how cold the snow was, it was not as cold as her heart. Liang Yu left Zhujia town. Zhang Yi was eating with Fatty Zhu on the Lujiang River. Seeing the distraught Liang Yu coming back, Zhang Yi curled his lips slightly and said jokingly, sure enough, the reality is very heavy. Teacher Liang. Liang Yu raised her head and glanced at Zhang Yi. She didn't refute Zhang Yi, but just smiled miserably. Did you always think I was stupid? Then she asked herself and answered, yeah, I'm so stupid, really. Zhang Yi put his hands in his pockets and said lightly, don't blame me for letting you see the cruelty of reality. I just think you should know the truth. But I will not interfere with what you do next, and I respect your choice. Liang Yu just shook her head. She was in a mess now. Her eyes lost focus. Liang Yu passed Zhang Yi and Fatty Zhu, and walked towards the shelter with a shaky body. Now she just wants to let herself be quiet. Fatty Zhu leaned over curiously, and asked, boss, what happened to Mr. Liang? What did she see? Zhang Yi glanced at him, and said lightly, her student is Wang Yuan in Zhujia town. If it is not coercion, then it will be exchanged with the food she gave. Fatty Zhu opened his eyes wide. Damn it, it's so explosive. Boss, you are too uninteresting. You don't let me see such a wonderful scene. Your focus is this? Zhang Yi patted him on the shoulder with a smile. Maybe Wang Yuan's is a sister or sister-in-law of yours. Fatty Zhu snorted disapprovingly. My family is almost dead. The rest are distant relatives. I don't care about them. Zhang Yi gave Fatty Zhu a thumbs up in admiration. Open-minded. Liang Yu returned to the shelter and locked herself in the room, feeling very confused. She suddenly began to feel that what she had been doing didn't seem to have that much meaning. After an unknown amount of time, there was a knock on the door outside. Liang Yu, are you okay? Zhang Yi's concerned voice came from outside the door. Liang Yu tidied up her mood, quickly sat up from the bed, walked over to open the door with her slippers on. After opening the door, Zhang Yi saw that her eye circles were slightly red, as if she had cried. It's no wonder that no teacher would not be sad to see the students he worked so hard to protect degenerate. Liang Yu said to Zhang Yi, I'm sorry, I'm a little uncomfortable today. I won't miss work. She thought that Zhang Yi came here to urge her to build a defense line. Zhang Yi shook his head. I'm not in such a hurry about that thing. It will be finished in 2 or 3 days at most. He looked down at Liang Yu, and his voice suddenly became warm. I'm worried about you, so I came here to take a look. Zhang Yi's sudden tenderness made Liang Yu uncomfortable. How did you sing that song? I'm most afraid of sudden concern from friends. I'm fine, just take a rest. Liang Yu said. Zhang Yi looked into the room and said with a smile, are we talking here? Liang Yu came to her senses and quickly stepped out of the way. Come in and sit. Zhang Yi walked into the room and pulled a chair over. I know that today's incident has hit you hard, but I hope you can look forward. There is still a long way to go. You can talk to me about any troubles you encounter in the future. At least I can be a good listener. Women are most likely to take advantage of it when they are emotionally frustrated, be it her mind or her body. Zhang Yi is not a person who believes in love, but he doesn't mind letting a woman fall in love with her. Because women are mostly in love, if they have feelings for a man, it is easy to give up. Zhang Yi didn't intend to slag Liang Yu, but he took the opportunity to draw the relationship between the two closer and make her more obedient in the future. He still knows how to seize the opportunity. Chapter 352 Liang Yue and -039, S obsession. At this time, Liang Yu's heart was very fragile, and she desperately needed someone to comfort her. Originally, this job belonged to Lu Karen and Yang Xingxin. After all, they were the only ones who had the closest relationship with Liang Yu in the shelter. But Yang Xingxin stopped Lu Karen, who was about to go there, and left this opportunity to Zhang Yi. Only by making Liang Yu completely become Zhang Yi's person would it be possible for her to stay in the shelter completely. Yang Xingxin did this out of consideration for Zhang Yi, but it was also for Liang Yu Heyo. Just as they thought, Zhang Yi's consolation at this time made Liang Yu feel better. Although she is a master of martial arts, she is only a 27-year-old single girl, and she longs for her opposite sex to comfort her in her heart. Zhang Yi, do you already think I'm a hopeless fool? Liang Yu sat on the bed and glanced at Zhang Yi with a wry smile. Zhang Yi looked at her for a few seconds, then suddenly smiled and said, it's true. But, he changed the subject, I believe you must have your own reasons. Sorry, I think you're just plain stupid. But I can't say that with my mouth. It's not like hitting someone in the face. Liang Yu raised her head to look at the ceiling. Her eyes gradually blurred. I started practicing martial arts when I was 3 years old. Although I'm a girl, my martial arts training is no weaker than any man. For warriors like us, there are usually 2 ways out in the future. Either go to film and television dramas and become a star debut, or open a museum to teach apprentices. But I don't want to be a vase in the entertainment industry, and I don't have the resources in this area. As for opening a museum and teaching apprentices, being a woman has become a big obstacle. So later, I chose a path that few warriors would take, and that was to be a bodyguard for others. Liang Yu slowly chatted about her life. When a woman talks to you about her past, it means she has trust in you, and it means you have a chance to do it. Zhang Yi became a fan at the right time. Then you entered that place and became the most powerful bodyguard in Huaguo. When mentioning that time, a smile appeared on the corner of Liang Yu's mouth. Yeah, that was the most glorious time in my life, and it was also the hardest time. After doing this for a few years, Cheyenne King College recruited me to be a physical education teacher, teaching the noble children of Cheyenne King College self-defense. They offered me a salary of 300 million yuan a year. Do you have any idea about 300 million yuan? Liang Yu looked at Zhang Yi with a look of pride in her eyes. Obviously, she is very proud of being able to get such a high salary. Zhang Yi smiled. I have a concept. My salary for more than 20 years. The smile on the corner of Liang Yu's mouth deepened. It's a pity, that's all in the past. After a period of memories ended, Liang Yu's eyes became more and more bewildered. She was silent for a long time before slowly saying, then the end of the world came, and we all lost everything. Family, friends, status, reputation, money. I have almost nothing left. The only thing left of me is the responsibility to protect the students. It is this little sense of mission that supports me to the present. I know, according to your behavior style, you must think I'm very stupid. It's not that I haven't thought about whether I should live a little more selfishly. However, if I lose even my last belief, I don't know why I survive in this world. As Liang Yu spoke, 2 lines of tears slowly fell down the corners of her eyes, dripping onto the white floor. After listening to Liang Yu's words, Zhang Yi suddenly understood her a little bit. Since the end of the world, he has seen many people who cannot accept the cruel reality and choose to kill themselves. Probably in their eyes, the world has become a hell, and the only thing left to live is pain. Mental torture is more painful than physical torture. Therefore, rather than saying that Liang Yu was protecting those students, it would be better to say that she was protecting the last shred of faith that supported her survival. Of course, this does not affect Zhang Yi's feeling that she is stupid and has nothing to do with faith. Some people are full, thinking about the meaning of life every day. Living itself is meaning. People live just to live. Do you put too much pressure on yourself sometimes? Zhang Yi said with a concerned face. You used to be alone, but now it's different. We are companions. We are family. Look, everyone in the shelter is an adult who can understand you and tolerate you. It's not like those unlucky children who don't understand. As Zhang Yi said, he slowly approached Liang Yu and suddenly grabbed her hand. Liang Yu's body trembled suddenly, a little at a loss. If you need a belief, let us be your belief from now on. Liang Yu's face flushed red all of a sudden. Although she is 27 years old, due to work reasons, she has never been in a relationship or even held hands with the opposite sex. What's more, Zhang Yi is quite handsome. At this moment, he was looking at Liang Yu so affectionately and holding her hand, it overloaded her brain. Let you become my belief. Zhang Yi said in his heart. To be precise, it is I, but in order not to alert you, I added the word we. Anyway, come be my dog. If you don't have a faith, build one up. If you have no social connections, we can all be your bonds. Don't make yourself so tired, I will be very distressed. All the blood in Liang Yu's body was rushing to his brain at this moment. Her brain cells were almost running out, and it was the first time that a man said such nasty things to her so shamelessly. But don't say it, really don't say it, these words are very useful. Liang Yu blushed, as if she was about to bleed. Although she still doesn't have that kind of emotion for Zhang Yi, after this kind of confession-like exchange, her favorability for Zhang Yi has greatly increased. Thanks, I'm much better. Liang Yu shyly withdrew her hand, lowered her head, her eyes flickered, not daring to look directly at Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi saw that the fire was almost ready, so enough was enough, otherwise it might have the opposite effect. If you tease a girl too much, you will turn into a man with a shrimp head. When the time comes, Liang Yu will find other women in the family and say, Jimmy's, who knows, speechless, there was a man with a shrimp head just now. At that time, it will make Zhang Yi depressed. Are you feeling better now? Liang Yu was silent for a moment, then nodded slightly. It's a lot better when someone talks. But I'm still disappointed for them. Thinking of what Wu Chenggai had done, Liang Yu couldn't help frowning again. Maybe they need to grow up again. Zhang Yi didn't comment much on those students. He knew that it was impossible for Liang Yu to give up those people immediately. But what he has to do is to slowly weaken the importance of those people in Liang Yu's heart. In this way, if they die one day in the future, Liang Yu's mood will not fluctuate too much. After a brief chat, Zhang Yi left Liang Yu's room. When he passed the corridor, he saw Yang Xingxin sitting in a wheelchair, looking at him with a smile on his face. "Brother, have you taken down Mr. Liang?" Chapter 353, Going out to find building materials. Zhang Yi just shrugged his shoulders when he heard Yang Xingxin's words, walked over with a smile and said, "It's almost done. I'm not very interested in your teacher Liang." Yang Xingxin tilted her head and asked puzzledly, "Ms. Liang can be considered a beauty, brother. You are not interested. You have high eyesight." Zhang Yi stretched his waist and said, "She is beautiful, but she is a little troublesome. The thing I hate the most is trouble." But after getting rid of her troublesome students, Zhang Yi can consider taking the relationship between the two of them a step further. However, the sentence is still the same. He maintains an indifferent attitude towards the so-called love, which can be used as a spice in life, but life is the same without it. Zhang Yi walked up to Yang Xingxin, smiled and told her what happened today. After Yang Xingxin listened, her face was full of disgust. Those guys can indeed do such disgusting things. Zhang Yi said lightly, "I've already sung a red face, now you can sing a bad face. It's better for Liang Yu to completely give up on those guys, so that I can clean them up without worrying about the future." Zhang Yi is not afraid that Yang Xingxin will betray her, because at Cheyenne King College, Yang Xingxin used Huahua to kill more students. Yang Xingxin raised the corner of her mouth. "Okay, I have to help my brother, don't I?" Yang Xingxin controlled the wheelchair and walked towards Liang Yu's room. Zhang Yi didn't know what they talked about, but Liang Yu's attitude towards those students would definitely not be the same from now on. No matter how deep the desire for trust and protection is, it will slowly disappear with the accumulation of disappointment. The next day, Zhang Yi was going to take Lu Karen out to find building materials to repair the shelter. Uncle Yu asked, "Do you want us to go with you? It's not good if we encounter enemies again." Zhang Yi shook his head. "No need, it's enough for me to bring Huahua. You stay here and continue to build the defense line. Someone at home has to be watching." He went out with Huahua, and the abilities of one person and one cat could complement each other perfectly. As long as he doesn't meet an opponent of Ling Feng's level, ordinary small forces or even aliens will not pose a threat to him. Even if you encounter a strong opponent, at least there is no pressure to run. Uncle Yu no longer insisted, saying that they would stay and build the line of defense. Although Zhang Yi is not around, Uncle Yu can still undertake the work of carrying by relying on his own brute strength. It is appropriate to complete half of the defense line today. It was the first time that he went out to do errands with Zhang Yi. Lu Karen was also very happy in his heart. His little face was flushed with excitement. Zhang Yi took out a set of captured Zishan-based combat uniforms and asked Lu Karen to change them into them. This gadget has excellent bulletproof and cold-proof effects. Originally, Zhang Yi planned to create an advanced combat uniform for everyone in the shelter. But the combat uniform on his body not only consumes a lot of materials, but also takes a long time to make. Lu Karen won't be able to do so much for a while. Therefore, Zhang Yi is not in a hurry and let her build it slowly, mainly for the frontline combatants to use first. And Uncle Yu's own defense is higher than that of the combat uniform, so the materials for a set of combat uniform are omitted. Let him wear the normal version of the captured combat uniform, so that he has a basic defense ability when he does not transform. Lu Karen put on his white combat uniform, wiped the golden sword logo on his chest, and smiled at Zhang Yi, showing 8 white teeth. Suddenly, her face became serious, and she gave military salute to Zhang Yi. "The inferior soldier, Lu Karen, is ready to fight. Please give instructions." Seeing her playful and lovely appearance, Zhang Yi couldn't help reaching out and pinching her nose. "Naughty ghost." Lu Karen stuck out his tongue. "Does it look like that? After I put on this outfit, I feel very handsome." Zhang Yi nodded. "Clothes are always easy to give people an illusion, especially for women." Lu Karen froze for a moment, then immediately realized that Zhang Yi was teasing her and angrily punched him on the shoulder. "Okay, let's go. The outside environment is not good right now. Let's go back early. Don't delay." Zhang Yi thought for a while, then took out another pistol and handed it to Lu Karen. "Surely you can play this thing." Luke Karen can build firearms, so he should be able to use them. Sure enough, Luke Karen's eyes lit up. He took it immediately and put it into the gun pouch beside him. The two left the shelter. Zhang Yi took out the snowmobile and took her towards the famous Hongyan Group factory in Lujiang district. Zishan district and Lujiang district are located in the southwest of Xianhe city, a little far from the city center, so many industrialized enterprises gather here. And Hongyan Group is the largest and most famous building materials company in Xianhe city. Not only in Xianhe city, but even in the whole country, it is very famous. Their group has always maintained cooperation with foreign countries, and the building materials they sell are all world-class mid to high-end products. Zhang Yi chose this building materials company because it is relatively close to the Zishan base. Secondly, and most importantly, it is the designated supplier of Xinlang Security Company. So Zhang Yi believes that it must also have the building materials for the shelter. The car moved away from the shelter. Luke Karen glanced back at the distant building, bit his lips hesitantly, and asked the question he had been curious about for a long time. Brother, can you talk to me about the problem yesterday? Luke Karen's mind is relatively straightforward, and she always remembers that incident. So now that she finds an opportunity, she quickly asks Zhang Yi what he thinks. Zhang Yi glanced at her and asked with a smile, "You hate other students, don't you?" Luke Karen didn't deny it either, and nodded seriously. What those guys did to Xingxin back then was too much. She paused, and then said, "It's not good for me. To be honest, I don't want to see them, and I don't want to live with them." Luke Karen is a top student, and he was admitted, based on his academic performance and professional skills. Therefore, in terms of status, there is a big gap between her and other students. When she was in school, she suffered a lot of bullying from her classmates. So now, she naturally doesn't want to see those guys live well. She is straightforward, but not stupid. Listening to Luke Karen's complaints, Zhang Yi kept smiling slightly. For a moment, he wanted to tell Luke Karen his plan. That is to keep those people in Zujia town, and when there is a conflict with other forces, deliberately lure others to sacrifice them. However, considering Luke Karen's carefree personality, he might have slipped things up accidentally. If Liang Yu found out, it might affect the relationship between the two of them. He doesn't want to be alienated from those around him. Therefore, Zhang Yi changed the term. Chapter 354 Invasion. Don't worry, I hate those guys too. I will never let them disturb our comfortable life. Let those bastards live on the other side of the river. With their self-care ability, they will starve to death or freeze to death sooner or later. And maybe one day we will have conflicts with other forces, and they will accidentally have an accident. Zhang Yi shrugged. Of course, I promised Liang Yu not to touch them, so it depends on their luck. Luke Karen was very happy when he knew Zhang Yi's attitude. But she came over worried. Brother, Teacher Liang is a very soft-hearted woman. What if they are in danger? What will Teacher Liang do if he takes them around the shelter? Zhang Yi smiled indifferently. Now is the end of the world, and human life is worthless. No matter who dies, it is a very normal thing. Although I promised Liang Yu that I would try my best to help her protect those students. But, if I can't do it, she should understand. Speaking of this, Zhang Yi suddenly reached out and pinched Luke Karen's nose. It will depend on how you and Yang Xingxin behave at that time. You, Mr. Liang, love your students very much. I can't speak well, so you should work harder. Luke Karen's face is as big as a palm, and his nose is also small. It feels good when pinched. Luke Karen's face was a little hot. I understand what you mean, big brother. You want me and Xingxin to brainwash Teacher Liang? There was a playful look in Zhang Yi's eyes. A stubborn woman like Liang Yu pursues spiritual sustenance in the last days, and she needs to gain the value of her own existence by protecting others. And this kind of spiritual sustenance was placed on the students by her. Maybe she didn't love her students that much. She just wants to prove that her existence is meaningful and that she is needed. Compared to those unlucky kids in Zujia town, Liang Yu undoubtedly likes you and Xingxin more. So how to please a teacher and make her love you more? Don't I need to say more? How could Luke Karen not understand what Zhang Yi meant? Girls have always been good at acting like a baby, no matter how old they are. The wind and snow outside the car was still there. When it came to February, the temperature gradually rose a little bit, but it was still deadly. Looking at the dead white land outside the window, Luke Karen couldn't help sighing softly. The shelter is heaven, and it's all hell outside. It would be better if no one came to bother us. She grunted. Zhang Yi blinked and couldn't help but think of the 4 large forces and was a little worried in his heart. I hope there won't be any conflicts with them until the shelter completes the defense project. He has already killed the people at Zhao base. There is a high probability that this matter cannot be hidden because the people who worship the Snow Sect had seen this scene before. I just hope that the timing of the conflict will come a little later. As long as I'm fully prepared, I'm not afraid, even if Zhao base is attacked together. Zhang Yi thought confidently. After destroying the Zishan base and obtaining all their weapons in stock, Zhang Yi's strength is not the same as before. But as the saying goes, what you are afraid of will happen. Zhang Yi is now trying to avoid contact with other forces. But when he drove to the factory of Zhang Yi and group, he saw 3 cars parked on the snow from a distance. Car? Zhang Yi's first reaction was to park the car far away. Then he took out the binoculars and looked in that direction. As a result, after looking at it, he found 3 strangely shaped gadgets. Those 3 vehicles should not be regarded as snowmobiles, but 3 off-road vehicles modified chariots. In addition to the addition of steel plates and machine guns on the body, tracks and skis are also installed below. It's just that the fake steel plate doesn't look thick. It seems to be to reduce the load. This kind of thing is quite different. Can it run? Zhang Yi expressed doubts. Luke Karen leaned over curiously. Brother, what did you see? Zhang Yi handed her the telescope and asked her to see it by herself. After Luke Karen glanced at it, he couldn't help complaining crazily. What's changed here? It's so messy, it makes people want to pick out their eyeballs. Zhang Yi leaned on the seat, and the gate of the dimension had been opened directly in front of him to prevent someone from secretly shooting and attacking him. He sighed. After all, I miscalculated their efficiency. These guys have already invaded from the border to the site of the Zishan base. The destruction of the Zishan base has been discovered by other forces. They definitely want to share this big piece of fat. In Lujiang district, the most valuable are some material factories and mechanical equipment factories. Zhang Yi hesitated. Now he does not want to conflict with any force. But he desperately needed to fix the shelter. So he had to go there and find the materials he needed to use. Kill them? Zhang Yi is struggling. It is not yet known where the people are coming from and what their strength is. It is not in line with his usual style to act rashly. And Luke Karen said enthusiastically, brother, the price-performance ratio of the garbage modified by these people is too low. Although this modification can barely drive on snow, the maximum speed cannot exceed 20 km per hour. And the modification is too rough, and the fuel consumption is several times that of a snowmobile. Oh. If you calculate it this way, they are really rich and powerful. They dispatched 3 vehicles in one go, which is simply 3 gas tigers. There was a flash of inspiration in Zhang Yi's mind, and he suddenly thought of something. Wait a minute. You said this kind of car consumes a lot of gas? Luke Karen put down the binoculars in his hand, looking disgusted. That's right. These off-road vehicles are much heavier than snowmobiles. Moreover, they have been modified to increase the weight, and the modification is very reluctant, and the fuel consumption is at least 5 times the size of this car. Zhang Yi's eyes flashed brightly. Back then, the Zishan base was reluctant to use snowmobiles because it was very difficult to obtain gasoline. But they used such extravagance, and only one faction could do it. Among the 4 major forces, it is the Yangsheng base that controls the Baofeng oil refinery in Xianhe City. It's them. The Yangsheng base is almost 200 kilometers away from here across the entire Xianhe City. I didn't expect them all to come here. I'm so impatient. However, they control the oil refinery and have sufficient energy, so they can indeed be so extravagant and wasteful. Zhang Yi confirmed the identities of these people, and he also thought about what to do in his heart. It's all here. It's impossible to just go back empty-handed. He planned to talk to these people. It would be best if he could peacefully take away the supplies he wanted. If you can't convince the other party, you can only use force. Combustible. There may be a conflict right away. Be mentally prepared. Zhang Yi looked ahead coldly and then drove the snowmobile forward. Luke Karen swallowed his saliva, but his eyes were full of excitement. To be honest, she was delighted, because this might be the first time she saw Zhang Yi fighting. Chapter 355 Yangsheng Base. Outside the Hangyuan Group's material factory, Zhang Yi drove the car not far from several other modified snowmobiles. Their appearance has long attracted the attention of the Yangsheng Base personnel. When they approached, there were already 5 or 6 people leaning on the car and pointing their guns at them. Stop. This place has been taken by our Yangsheng Base. Which faction are you from? Go somewhere else. A man with long hair and beard shouted loudly. Zhang Yi is always vigilant and has activated the quadruple speed ability. As long as the opponent pulls the trigger, he will immediately kill all these people. You stay in the car and don't move. Zhang Yi saw clearly that the weapons in their hands were all basic firearms and they couldn't hurt his car, which was equipped with the same type of bulletproof glass as the shelter. So he got out of the car with confidence. And a black civet cat with its tail up gracefully followed Zhang Yi's footsteps. Zhang Yi lightly raised his hands and said to the people in front of him, "Don't get me wrong, I have no malicious intentions. I don't have any objections to this factory building, which is first come, first served. It's just that I need some materials, and I hope you can make it easier." But when the people at Yangsheng Base saw him wearing the same combat uniform as Zishan Base, their expressions became more dignified. Didn't it mean that the Zishan Base has been destroyed? It may be the remnant party. There are so many people in the Zishan Base, it is impossible for them all to die. It's a good thing it's not the other companies, otherwise we would be a bit tricky. A Zishan Base that has been wiped out, what other powerful characters can survive? But, he's got a nice car. Someone has already set their sights on Zhang Yi's snowmobile. They drive knockoffs with poor performance, slow speed and high fuel consumption. If Zhang Yi's car is a Rolls-Royce, their car can only be regarded as a Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz and Santana are completely different. A cautious person whispered, "Don't act rashly. Do you think that at this time, the person who can drive such a good car will be an ordinary character?" His eyes were full of fear, especially when facing so many of us. He didn't show any fear. This person is definitely not easy to deal with. Tell the captain to come here. Immediately, someone contacted the captain inside the factory through the communicator. At the same time, someone shouted to Zhang Yi, "Let's talk about this matter with you after our captain arrives." Zhang Yi had a relaxed smile on his face, but he was actually very vigilant in his heart. He looked at the factory building ahead, and someone used the same method as he did before to enter the factory building by hanging a sling from the skylight. Well, I can wait. Zhang Yi smiled and took 2 steps back, keeping his hands in the opponent's sight. Of course, if he really wanted to kill, he didn't necessarily need a gun. It's best to have a good talk with these people, and Zhang Yi doesn't want to have enemies with Chaoyu and Yangsheng at the same time. After a while, several people crawled out of the factory building. The leader was a black-faced man with a beard. The combat uniform on his body is also white, but there is a red fire emblem on his shoulder. This means that he is the captain of the Yangsheng Base. Even if it's not an alien, it must be a powerful character. Zhang Yi made a judgment immediately. When Gao Yun, the captain of the Yangsheng Base, saw Zhang Yi, his gaze was as sharp as a falcon. In the last days, any stranger you meet may be an enemy, and no one dares to be careless. But Gao Yuan only saw a car, 2 people and a cat, while he was with a dozen of his men, so he felt a lot more at ease. "Who are you from Zishan Base?" Gao Yuan looked at Zhang Yi and asked coldly. The corners of Zhang Yi's mouth curled up slightly. "Zishan Base Special Forces Captain, Zhang Bihei." Zhang Yi didn't take off his mask, and the other party didn't know what he looked like. Nowadays, it is better to use the name of Zishan Base than to expose one's true identity. Moreover, the other party only knew that the old nest of the Zishan Base was gone, but they couldn't tell whether there were any remaining troops. As the base with the strongest armed forces among the 4 major bases, it is impossible for the other bases to have no fear of Zishan. Sure enough, Gao Yuan's expression became more dignified when Zhang Yi reported himself as a family member. It really is the captain of the Zishan Base. No wonder he dared to come here with only one person. "Why, are you here to drive us away?" Gao Yuan thought that Zhang Yi was here to drive him away, and his expression was a bit unfriendly. Don't blame me for not warning you. The base camp of Zishan base has been destroyed. Your remaining strength is not enough to compete with my Yangsheng base. So, don't have dangerous thoughts. Gao Yuan has believed what Zhang Yi said. After all, that kind of combat uniform was uniformly created by the government at the beginning, and only their 4 major bases have it. It is too difficult for outsiders to imitate, and it is impossible to imagine anyone who has such conditions in the last days. Zhang Yi saw that the other party believed the lie he made up, so he said calmly, it's just a material factory. If the friends in Yangsheng base like it, you can move as much as you can. But now we also need to take some materials. I hope you don't stop it. After Gao Yuan heard Zhang Yi's words, the expression on his face was uncertain. They were ordered to come to Lujiang district to occupy some important material locations, but they never expected to encounter the remnants of the Zishan base. However, Zhang Yi is right. It is too difficult to monopolize such a large factory building. They also don't need so many building materials. After thinking about it for a while, Gao Yuan said to Zhang Yi, yes, but I only give you half an hour. Zhang Yi smiled. It's best to be able to make sense, and he doesn't want to conflict with the person opposite. After all, he doesn't have any hobbies for killing. Zhang Yi waved to the car behind, motioning for Lu Karen to get down and go with him. Lu Karen needed to identify the materials, and Zhang Yi had to bring her with him to ensure safety. Gao Yuan gestured a few gestures to the subordinates around him, and the subordinates understood and made way for Zhang Yi. Lu Karen was both nervous and excited, and hurried to Zhang Yi. Out of safety considerations, Zhang Yi hugged her directly in his arms. The sudden warmth made Lu Karen's heart thump, and he blushed even at -60 degrees. Let's go, Zhang Yi calmly said to Lu Karen. But what about our car? Shouldn't it be put away? Lu Karen was a little worried about the Rolls-Royce on the snow, for fear that it would be snatched away by the people from the Yangsheng base. It's okay, they can't take it away. Zhang Yi said something in a low voice without too much explanation. Because he will definitely not easily use his ability in front of others. The ability of a foreigner is his strong point, but it also contains his life gate. Ever since he killed Ling Feng, this has become an iron rule in his heart. Lu Karen bit his lip, but obediently followed Zhang Yi to the factory. Hua followed Zhang Yi and Zhang Yi all the time on the catwalk. Her figure was quite elegant. Even if it walks in the extreme cold, it seems to have no feeling at all. Just as Zhang Yi and Lu Karen were slowly walking towards the factory building, behind them, Gao Yuan's narrowed eyes suddenly opened. His right hand was inserted into the pocket at a speed invisible to the naked eye, and then he pulled the trigger directly towards Zhang Yi's back. Chapter 356 The Unstoppable Chariot. The moment Gao Yuan shot, Zhang Yi and Hua's eyes lit up. Watch your back. Zhang Yi never rest assured to hand over his back to strangers. Although his back was facing Gao Yuan and the others, he possessed the ability of the space system and was extremely sensitive to space fluctuations. Since devouring the special abilities of Ling Feng and other special forces, his intuition has also become stronger. So while he was vigilant, the moment those people's murderous intent appeared, Zhang Yi immediately opened the gate of dimension behind him. At the same time, Hua's body swelled up like a balloon, tightly blocking Zhang Yi and Lu Karen. Da 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 da. Bullets from more than a dozen people came over like raindrops, and all of them hit the black hair like flowery steel needles. After the last battle, Hua also devoured several aliens, and its combat effectiveness has increased a lot. Faced with the close-range attacks of these firearms, it is like scratching an itch for it. What is this? Monster. The people in Yangsheng base were all frightened. It was the first time they saw mutant creatures. Gao Yuan was also taken aback for a moment, but he quickly realized that he drew out his gun and pointed it at Hua's eyes. Bang, bang, bang. Gao Yuan's posture for drawing his gun was very professional, and all 3 shots were aimed directly at Hua's eyeballs. At first glance, it looks like a person who has received professional training and has a high combat literacy. Meow. Hua was a little angry. She flicked her head, and the bullets flew away. Zhang Yi didn't make a move, but protected Lu Karen in front of him. He had to protect Lu Karen, let Huahua fight first, and observe how these people's combat effectiveness is, especially if there are any strangers. Huahua turned into a 5-meter tall black monster, standing behind Zhang Yi and Lu Karen. It is like a living fortress, and all the bullets hit it without pain. Even if the weapons used by those people are already very powerful models, even loaded with armor-piercing bullets. But what they are facing is not Huahua in the early stage of mutation, but Huahua after evolution. Meow. Although Huahua didn't feel too much pain, she became irritable and rushed over and bit half of a person's body. The others came to their senses and quickly scattered and fled. Then, they actually performed the same action, that is, took out a disposable metal needle tube from their bodies and then stabbed them hard into their bodies. Okay. Zhang Yi's eyes were fixed. The actions of these people reminded him of the stimulant he injected when he attacked the Zishan base. It seems that this is also some kind of medicine that can improve combat effectiveness. Sure enough, after the injection of the drug, some strange red lines appeared on their bodies soon. Huahua howled and rushed over, revealing her big sharp claws, swinging them like sharp steel knives. Those people dodge quickly, and it can be clearly seen that their speed has increased several times. But it's a pity that they are not facing humans, but cats known for their speed and agility. Under the same size, cats have almost no opponents, and probably only ferrets can fight. A mere human being, even with drugs, can't beat it in speed. With a few slaps and pulls of the big claws, 3 people were killed. But soon, Zhang Yi discovered the opponent's tactics. Several of them were responsible for attracting the flowers, and the Captain Gao principal led 5 people to attack Zhang Yi. 5 people shot at Zhang Yi at the same time. It's just that the silver pistol in Gao Yuan's hand suddenly ignited, and a hot bullet shot at Zhang Yi's head. Is this his ability? This thought flashed across Zhang Yi's mind for a moment. Although it was far away, he could feel the power contained in the bullet the moment it ejected from the chamber. It's just that for him, unless it's an attack that exceeds the upper limit of energy contained in his space, all ballistic weapons are meaningless to him. SHHH. SHHH. SHHHH. The bullets of the 5 people all disappeared 3 meters in front of Zhang Yi, as if they had never been fired. What? You are indeed a stranger. Gao Yuan immediately realized the situation at hand. However, he had time to regret, but no time to escape. Let you also look at my gun. Zhang Yi raised his hands, and 2 golden desert eagles appeared out of nowhere. Zhang Yi said softly to Lu Karen, cover your ears. Lu Karen covered his ears obediently, and looked up at the calm Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi raised his pistol, fired both guns continuously, and shot at the heads of those 5 people. Bang, 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 bang. The moment the 5 members of the plateau saw Zhang Yi drawing his gun, they immediately dodged subconsciously, and then shot back instinctively. However, even if they dodged flexibly with the help of their combat experience, the 5 bullets seemed to be locked on them, and their trajectory in the air turned into a strange arc, hitting their foreheads precisely. 5 people, including Gao Yuan as the captain, collapsed to the ground one by one. Until the moment of death, the eyes of several people were full of bewilderment and incomprehension. Is it reasonable that they are all experienced gunmen, and they were headshot, even when they were prepared? In a sense, precision shooting is a causal skill. As long as Zhang Yi aims at you, unless your speed can be faster than the bullet, otherwise it will be futile to hide. Lu Karen saw that Zhang Yi killed the 5 shooters neatly, and the admiration in his eyes was almost overflowing. Not far away, Huahua also quickly ended the battle, chewed those people in her mouth a few mouthfuls, and then spit them out impatiently. This is what you forced me to do. Looking at the corpses on the ground, Zhang Yi sighed helplessly. The tree wants to be quiet, but the wind doesn't stop. I'm obviously a pacifist, but why are people always forcing me to kill people? He is not afraid of the Yangsheng base. However, Yangsheng base and Chaoyu base were provoked at the same time. If they form a group to attack, Zhang Yi will still have some headaches. It's not that I'm afraid, but that I find it troublesome. But if you kill it, you will kill it, and he can't be used to it when the other party pushes his nose on his face. Zhang Yi walked up to Gao Yuan, put his right hand on his bloody head, and began to devour his abilities. Don't tell me Gao Yuan's abilities are not strong, not even as strong as the captain of the Zishan Special Forces. With Zhang Yi's current state, the ability to devour him can no longer be satisfied. It can only be regarded as a tooth-beating sacrifice. To Zhang Yi, a stranger of this level seemed to be no different from an ordinary person, so he killed him with a wave of his hand. Luke Karen followed behind Zhang Yi and said excitedly, "Brother, you are too powerful. There are so many people, they all died without even touching your clothes." Zhang Yi squatted down to search Gao Yuan's body. While searching, he said to Luke Karen, "Although I'm not a martial artist, but after all, I have devoured the power of so many different people. To put it bluntly, I'm quite strong now. Even Zhang Yi's weak offensive ability is far better than a low-level foreigner like Gao Yuan." Luke Karen looked at Zhang Yi, who was groping carefully on Gao Yuan, and asked curiously, "Brother, what are you doing? Looking for something?" Zhang Yi groped for a long time, and finally found what he wanted from the pocket of his coat. A disposable metal needle. The dark red potion can be seen through the glass in the middle. Is this the stimulant used in the Yangsheng base? It feels stronger than what Keda gave me. Judging from the efficacy alone, this drug is indeed very strong. It can allow ordinary people to have super strength even close to the level of transformed people in Zishan base. Moreover, judging from the use of those people in the Yangsheng base, it seems that there is no requirement for physical fitness, and normal people can use it. Zhang Yi put away the medicine, intending to take it home for Zalkeda to analyze. This kind of thing may be used to save lives at critical times. Then, Zhang Yi searched every corpse. But it's a pity that, except Gao Yuan, who has 2 bottles of potions, everyone else only has 1 bottle, and it's gone when it's used up. Fortunately, 2 people were killed by Huata before they could use the medicine, so Zhang Yi got 2 more bottles. In them, Zhang Yi did not find any other particularly valuable things. However, he put away the communication devices of these people. Different from the mobile phone used by Zhang Yi, they take satellite phones with them when they go out. This thing is much heavier than an ordinary mobile phone, like a brick, but it has all the functions of a mobile phone, and it can have better communication effects. Zhang Yi planned to copy the data inside after going back, and then use it to analyze the intelligence of the Yangsheng base. After that, he put the corpse fragments on the ground into the different space. Although the conflict has already broken out, it is impossible for the Yangsheng base to ignore the death of a foreigner and a dozen thugs, but it is better to delay the time and let them discover the truth later. At the very least, Zhang Yi had to buy time to build the outer wall of the shelter and the outer defense line of Young Manor. After Zhang Yi cleaned up the corpses, he cleaned the battlefield again, including the Zixi snowmobiles at the Yangsheng base. He also accepted them. It's not that he needs it, it's just that taking it away can confuse others. He also cleaned up the blood on the ground to ensure that no one would find out that a death fight had taken place here. During this process, Zhang Yi's movements were neither hasty nor slow. Luke Karen muttered in his heart as he watched. "Brother, they won't have anyone coming to reinforce them, will they?" Zhang Yi patted the snow on his hands and said lightly, "Yangsheng base is more than 200 kilometers away from here. Even if they have a large number of people, they still have abundant fuel resources. But fighting across such a long distance, we must send a large army to guard the house. This is just a material factory, and not too many troops will be concentrated. There are more useful resources around." Of course, Zhang Yi refers to resources that are useful to others. He doesn't lack anything right now. Let's go find the materials you mentioned. After going back and repairing the shelter, we have to prepare for the possible war that may break out next. What Zhang Yi said was calm and breezy. When he didn't collide with the Yangsheng base before, he was always careful and tried to avoid conflicts. But the 2 sides really started to fight. Zhang Yi didn't care. Life and death can't be taken lightly, but if you don't accept it, you can only do it. I have tolerated it. If you don't give yourself a chance, if you insist on dying, then don't blame me. Luke Karen closely followed Zhang Yi's footsteps. Zhang Yi didn't even bother to climb the wall and let Hua rush over, knocking out a big hole in the wall. Then the 2 entered the material workshop through the hole. Zhang Yi didn't understand the materials used to restore the shelter. After all, He had never studied materials and chemical engineering in college, so he followed Luke Aaron. Whatever material Luke Aaron picked, he directly put it into the different space. But Zhang Yi took everything he could use and didn't leave any of it to others. If it wasn't for the fact that the factory building was too big, Zhang Yi didn't want to waste time. He would have emptied the entire material factory building. Half an hour later, the two of them had a full harvest and left the factory. Zhang Yi got into the car and the two of them drove away together, heading towards Young Manor without looking back. The war game is about to start again. Zhang Yi blinked his eyes and suddenly thought that, now that he had reached this point, he might as well make good use of the incoming enemies to solve the troubles in Zujia town. He glanced at Luke Aaron next to him, but didn't tell her his plan. But how to attract the enemy's attention to Zujia town, he had a plan in mind. Chapter 357 Fire Defense Line. Zhang Yi and Luke Aaron set foot on the way back to Young Manor. At this time, Zhang Yi has realized that several other forces have begun to invade the original sphere of influence of the Zishan base. It was no accident that he saw Gao Yuan in the material factory. If nothing unexpected, if he went to other important material storage points in Zishan and Lujiang districts now, he would also find that there were people from several major forces in those places. And Zhang Yi beheaded the people in Zhaoyu and Yangsheng base one after another, which meant that the war was about to begin. The difference is only when they will find out that the person who did it is Zhang Yi and come to attack. With a limited time frame, we have to be ready for everything. On the way back, Zhang Yi said to Luke Aaron, "Today we met people from Yangsheng base, so don't tell everyone about it for now." Luke Aaron was stunned for a moment and then asked strangely, "Why? If you don't let everyone know that the danger is approaching, how can they be prepared? This matter only needs to be clear in my heart." Zhang Yi said solemnly, "I will restrict everyone to speed up the construction of the defense line and prevent them from leaving the shelter around casually. But this matter, we can't let them know for the time being. I don't want to cause panic to everyone, understand? Combustible. When I think I can let people know, I will tell them, of course." Zhang Yi stared into Luke Aaron's eyes. His tone was calm, but there was an undeniable power in his eyes. Luke Aaron was silent for less than a second, then nodded vigorously. Although she didn't know what Zhang Yi's purpose was, her heart was for Zhang Yi, and she fully supported what Zhang Yi decided to do. "I understand. Brother Zhang Yi, you did this for everyone's consideration anyway, right?" Luke Aaron smiled sweetly. Zhang Yi smiled and stretched out his hands to rub her short hair. "You just need to understand. My brother did this for you and everyone." This sentence especially emphasized Luke Aaron, which made Luke Aaron's heart beat a little faster. Yes, when did Zhang Yi harm her? As long as Zhang Yi gave the order, she would strictly abide by it. While Zhang Yi was driving the car, a strange color flashed in his eyes. "The reason why I didn't tell everyone this news was to hide it from Liang Yu." Zhang Yi planned to use the hands of the two major forces to get rid of those students in Zujia town. Therefore, Liang Yu must be made to think that the danger will not come in a short time. To be on the safe side, it's best not to let anyone know that a conflict has occurred. When Zhang Yi and Luke Aaron returned to the shelter, they could see from a distance that the tall Great Wall of ice and snow was more than half built. With a thickness of 10 meters, it is built with 2 layers of giant ice blocks. Coupled with the steel skeleton inside, it is hard to imagine anything that can destroy it quickly. This is just a means of defense. When building the ice and snow city wall, Liang Yu and Uncle Yu made holes in the ice and made shooting holes with steel plates. After that, a large number of captured machine guns, heavy machine guns, tanks, artillery, and tanks can be placed on it to form a dense firepower network. Zhang Yi and Luke Aaron got out of the car. Zhang Yi returned to his usual gentle smile and walked over. Seeing this, Uncle Yu and Liang Yu asked, "How is the material collection going smoothly? Have you encountered any suspicious people?" Zhang Yi said with a faint smile, "It went very smoothly, and I didn't encounter any obstacles along the way. As I said before, it will take some time for other forces to stabilize the situation in their sphere of influence. How can they have the time to come and seize the resource points here?" Luke Aaron didn't speak and followed behind Zhang Yi like a good baby. Zhang Yi saw that Liang Yu had a relaxed expression on his face. That would be great. Otherwise, I don't know what to do. She was referring, of course, to the placement of those students. But this time, Zhang Yi said uncharacteristically, your worry is not unreasonable. Although I don't think there will be any danger at present, it is also something that should be done to plan for a rainy day. He said, glanced at Lu Karen next to him, and suddenly leaned in front of Liang Yu, and said in a low voice, but Liang Yu, I don't mind letting your students move in when they are in danger, but Xingxin and Karen, I really have nothing to do. After all, the conflicts that occurred between them in the past cannot be eliminated in a day or two. It's too unfair to Xingxin and Karen to let them live under the same roof. Zhang Yi had to change his tune, because he knew in his heart that the crisis in Zhujia town was coming soon. If he still keeps advocating the safety theory and saying that there is no danger, then Liang Yu may blame him on him in the future. Therefore, it is better to focus the conflict on the students of Zhujia town, Yang Xingxin, and Lu Karen. You Liang Yu's own students are on the left and right, and the palms and backs of your hands are full of flesh. Which side can you, Liang Yu, take sides? Sure enough, Liang Yu couldn't help hesitating when she heard Zhang Yi's analysis. From the heart, she must be closer to Yang Xingxin and Lu Karen. After all, they are all good students, and the three of them got along very harmoniously in recent days. Unlike those guys in Zhujia town, they only caused trouble for her. It's not wrong to say so, and your idea is also very reasonable, but Liang Yu looked hesitant. At this moment, Lu Karen, who was standing behind Zhang Yi, saw Zhang Yi quietly gesturing to her. This cute and innocent girl from science and engineering just now remembered the plan Zhang Yi had mentioned to her. At this time, it's her turn to act. Lu Karen stepped forward, looking at Liang Yu eagerly, with a look of grievance on his face. Mr. Liang, why do you have to let them move to the nearby area? Whenever Xingxin and I see them, we will think of our time at Shine King Academy. During that time, do you know how cruel they were to us both? Seeing Lu Karen's aggrieved expression, Liang Yu couldn't help but feel guilty. At the beginning, she actually knew that there were cliques and exclusion among the students. But at that time, she had limited energy and was tired of dealing with Huahua's threats, so she really couldn't care about those things. Thinking about it now, she really didn't take good care of Yang Xingxin and Lu Karen. Now she was able to enter the shelter because Yang Xingxin and Lu Karen helped intercede. Coupled with the fact that they get along with each other every day, their relationship must be much better than with other students. So upon hearing Lu Karen's cry, Liang Yu couldn't help but get tangled up. I don't want to do that either. If they can be self-reliant, it's best to survive in the last days. But now there are obviously external factors. If they are hurt by someone under my nose, I will not forgive myself. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 358 Satellite Phones. Listening to Liang Yu's words, Zhang Yi thought to himself, what Liang Yu needs is a spiritual destination, and he can give himself a reasonable explanation to give up those students. This is Liang Yu. If it were someone else, Zhang Yi would not bother wasting time on her. However, he couldn't bear to part with this powerful martial arts master who could be his martial arts teacher. So Zhang Yi stood up and smoothed things over. Don't talk about this matter yet. Combustible, we have to repair the outer wall of the shelter as soon as possible. You go to prepare the materials first. Zhang Yi changed the topic and at the same time did not give Liang Yu a chance to chat. Because if we talk further down, things may develop in a direction he doesn't want to see. So Zhang Yi pulled Lu Karen away and at the same time gave Liang Yu a don't worry look. A warm feeling suddenly surged in Liang Yu's heart. She is very grateful to Zhang Yi for understanding her difficulties. Zhang Yi and Lu Karen came to the studio and took out all the materials. How long will it take to process these materials and repair the shelter? Lu Karen said, the damaged area of the outer wall is only a dozen square meters. If you don't consider the aesthetics and just reinforce it, it will be done in 2 or 3 days. The most troublesome thing about exterior wall repair is to make it non-traceable, so that others cannot see that it has been damaged. Zhang Yi waved his hand. Now he doesn't care whether the exterior wall is beautiful or not. I only ask for solidity, nothing else matters. Oh, I understand now. Luke Karen nodded, then walked to change his work clothes on his own, ready to start working. Can you come here alone? Zhang Yi asked. With so many materials, even an adult male would have trouble handling them. Luke Karen blinked his eyes and said with a smile, brother, you all have things to do. Don't worry, I'm a bit slow doing it alone, but it will definitely not affect the quality. Zhang Yi and other strangers needed to build a perimeter defense line, so naturally they didn't have time to help her. Luke Karen could understand this matter very well. Zhang Yi put his hands in his pockets, and several figures flashed in his mind. He smiled and said, I'll call Yang Mi and the others over for you, and let them do things for you. The other women in the family can't help much outside, so they have to contribute at this time. Luke Karen couldn't help laughing and said, their strength is too weak. It may not be possible to do this kind of work. Zhang Yi sighed lightly, reached out and pinched her sensual little face. Sometimes don't forget, you're a girl too. Why can't they do what you can do? Luke Karen's face was reddish. He nodded and said, then, let them help me and carry the materials. Zhang Yi nodded and turned around to look for Yang Mi and the others. They have nothing to do at home now. Upon hearing Zhang Yi's order, Zhao Heimei and Yang Mi went to help Luke Karen. Inside and outside the house are busy in full swing. Zhang Yi made a simple estimate. The ideal state is to repair the outer wall within 3 days and build a solid fire defense line. At that time, with a large number of weapons in his hands, he will not be at a disadvantage, even if he faces the forces of 2 bases at the same time. What's more, the Yangsheng and Chaoyu bases are at least 100 kilometers away from here. If you travel long distances, your combat effectiveness will be compromised. Even if it's 1-on-2, the advantage is still in my hands. Zhang Yi felt more relaxed. At least he would not feel anxious about the upcoming war. He walked to Yang Xingxin's room, reached out and knocked on the door. Xingxin, it's me. Brother, wait a minute. Yang Xingxin's sweet voice came from the room. Only when facing Zhang Yi will she show the appearance of a well-behaved baby. The door was open from the inside, and Yang Xingxin was wearing off-white cotton pajamas, looking up at Zhang Yi innocently. Brother, welcome back. Zhang Yi smiled and pushed her wheelchair through the door, and closed the door behind her backhand. Xingxin, we went out this time, and encountered something interesting again. Zhang Yi told Yang Xingxin about the people who encountered the Yangsheng base, and killed them all. Yang Xingxin is smarter than Luke Karen, and has deeper thoughts, so don't worry about her unintentional leaking. And to solve the matter of the group of students in Zujia town, Zhang Yi needs Yang Xingxin's help. Sure enough, after hearing what Zhang Yi said, Yang Xingxin immediately understood why he came to look for her. Brother, you have killed people from Yangsheng and Zaoyu bases for several days in a row. Oh, what they lost was very important aliens. In this tense situation, it's impossible for them to turn a blind eye, right? In other words, they will kill here soon. Zhang Yi said with a faint smile, I'm not afraid of them. Those people are not my biggest trouble. At most, it is like when facing the Zishan base, unable to go out and move freely for a long time. However, with the strength of the 2 bases, it is impossible to break through the defense line and shelter arranged by Zhang Yi. Yang Xingxin nodded. Indeed, they don't have high-level military background like Chen Xinian, and they are all high-ranking rebels, so they can't get heavy ground-penetrating missiles. So they are not a big threat to the shelter. So, can we take this opportunity to clean up the students in Zujia town? Yang Xingxin's tone was very flat. She didn't really hate those students. After all, she didn't suffer much at Shine King Academy. On the surface, she is weak, but in fact, anyone who has attacked her has already been killed by who are her. She just hates those selfish idiots, and thinks the existence of that group of people is meaningless. But now, they have become Zhang Yi's troubles again. Yang Xingxin naturally wants them to die. Zhang Yi said with a smile, we have to borrow a knife to kill people. It's not easy for any of us to do it. After all, Liang Yu is still of great use to me. Although it's a little troublesome, it's worth it for her. After Zhang Yi finished speaking, he took out a signal jammer from the different space, placed it in the corner, and turned it on. Afterwards, He took out the satellite phones of the members of the Yangsheng base that had been confiscated and handed them to Yang Xingxin. These are the satellite phones of the members of the Yangsheng base. Please help me analyze. If there is any important information in it, give it to me. After transferring the data, I'll be useful. Yang Xingxin smiled and said, this is simple. For a top hacker like her, the job was too easy. She transferred all the data of the satellite phone to the computer and said to Zhang Yi, brother, I will analyze the data inside and give it to you. After sorting it out, Zhang Yi nodded, put those satellite phones back away, and left Yang Xingxin's room. Chapter 359 Baofeng Oil Refinery. In the living room, Zhao Kenna was sitting in front of the bar counter of the bar, resting his chin in one hand, staring blankly out of boredom. Just now Zhang Yi called Yang Mi and Zhao Heimei to help Lu Karen, but asked her to stay temporarily. She knew she must have some special mission. Could it be that Zhang Yi wanted to? Zhao Kenna's complexion gradually turned crimson. At this time, Zhang Yi came over. Kenna. Zhao Kenna's fantasies were interrupted. He coughed awkwardly and quickly stood up. Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi came over and handed her a shot of dark red medicine from his body. Do you know what this is? Zhao Kenna took it and glanced at the light, then smiled helplessly. How could you recognize it at a glance? Where did you get this thing? Zhang Yi touched his nose. Don't worry about these things. This thing seems to be a stimulant that can stimulate the potential of the human body. Help me analyze its ingredients to see how effective it is and what side effects it has. This stimulant is much better than what Zhang Yi and the others used back then. Zhang Yi's eyes are hot. If it is determined that the side effects are not serious, then he can take it himself in the future and use it at critical times. It would be great if it could be mass produced. Of course, this possibility is very slim. Zhao Kenna is a doctor, and it is difficult to manufacture medicines that can distinguish them. Zhao Kenna was very curious about the medicine in her hand. She nodded, asked Zhang Yi to give her some time, and took it to her laboratory for research. Zhang Yi, on the other hand, left the shelter and went outside to build a defense line with Uncle Yu and others, north of Xianhe City, Yangsheng district. In the vast snowfield, a dozen thick pipes of a huge oil refinery are spewing thick smoke into the sky. If the temperature in the surrounding area is more than -60 degrees, the temperature near the refinery is significantly higher. This dark steel monster stood in the middle of the snowfield, like a monster that could swallow flames. The Yangsheng base, one of the 4 major refuges in Xianhe City, is here. As the largest oil refinery in Xianhe City, Baofeng Oil Refinery has an oil storage capacity of up to 1 million barrels. After all, Xianhe City was an important trading port before the end of the world, so it is more convenient to obtain crude oil. Their warehousing also undertakes the function of temporarily storing crude oil shipped from overseas for other regions. But after the end of the world, there is no reason to return these things. Refineries need to work all the time. Crude oil cannot be directly applied to machines and needs to be refined and converted into gasoline, diesel, asphalt, lubricating oil and other oils. And these are the biggest capital of Yangsheng base. Anyway, they have a lot of energy and they don't worry about consumption point. You can even exchange these refined oils with other forces. At this time, in a factory building in the Yangsheng base, 2 ragged men were tied up with ropes and knelt down on the cold ground. Both of them have dark red marks on their faces, which are in the shape of a flamed coat of arms. The 2 knelt on the ground trembling, not because of the cold, but because of the 2 people looking down on them in front of them. One is a man wearing a white combat uniform, gold-rimmed glasses, and a stern gaze, and a long-haired woman in a red combat uniform who stands out among the many white combat uniforms. Zhao Hanglian, the leader of the Yangsheng base, and Zhu Qingting, her deputy. The soldier who escorted them reported, "Boss, we killed 3 of the 5 people who escaped this time, and captured the other 2. Please deal with them." The 2 men kneeling on the ground kowtowed in fright. "I was wrong. Please give me another chance. I promise I won't run away again. Don't kill me." Zhao Hanglian looked down at them indifferently. She is a cold and beautiful woman, but those big eyes are cold and inhuman. Looking at 2 people kneeling on the ground is like looking at 2 pigs. Oh no, not as good as 2 pigs. Because if there are 2 live pigs now, they must be more valuable than living people. Zhao walked up to them, slowly stepping on red leather boots. She asked coldly, "Why are you running away? Although you need work here, at least I will provide you with food and shelter. Get out of here. Are you going outside to seek death?" As Zhao approached, the man on the ground trembled even more and could only kowtow and beg for mercy. Zhao voice became a little colder. "Now tell me, where do you want to go when you escape from here?" The two men on the ground glanced at each other subconsciously. Neither of them dared to speak. Zhao gaze was somewhat sarcastic. "Are you going to worship the snow cult's territory and go to that hypocritical bitch?" The two dared not answer anything. They could only keep kowtow, begging Zhao to spare their lives. This is also tantamount to admitting that what Zhao said is true. Zhao sneered, losing interest in continuing the torture. She said to Zhuge Qingting, her deputy next to her, "Didn't you come up with a new thing recently?" Zhuge Qingting nodded. "The technical department has developed a collar that can be filled with miniature bombs. Just put this on the slave's neck, and the next time someone escapes, he can be executed directly." Zhao heard the words and said lazily, "Then let me see the effect." As soon as the voice fell, someone next to him came with a tray with 2 silver collars on it. The slaves on the ground were terrified, struggling desperately to escape. But they were quickly held down by the surrounding soldiers, who forcibly put collars around their necks. Zhao took the remote control and said jokingly to the 2 slaves, "Now I'll give you a chance. You can escape. If this collar doesn't kill you, you can survive. You can pray. After all, it is a new product, and the effect may not be so good." After all, the soldiers next to him cut the ropes from the hands of the 2 slaves. The 2 slaves looked at the remote control in Zhao hands in horror. The explosive collars around their necks were like 2 demons, tightly locking their lifelines. Not daring to delay, the 2 quickly turned around and ran out of the factory building. As long as you run far enough, the signal won't work. Holding this belief in their hearts, the 2 ran out desperately. Zhao looked at their backs, not in a hurry, but just asked Zhuge Qingting beside him, "How far is the effective distance?" Zhuge Qingting replied respectfully, 5 kilometers. "As long as we find that the slave has disappeared, we will detonate it. Absolutely no slave can escape." Zhao nodded slowly. "Okay, let's wait and see. Let's see if this new thing is effective." Chapter 360 The Chain Reaction of the Disappearance of Aliens. After Zhao waited for more than 10 minutes, he lost his patience and pressed the detonation button in his hand. Afterwards, Zhuge Qingting took out the communicator and asked the soldiers who followed them how it turned out. One detonated successfully, and the other misfired. The soldier spoke truthfully. He looked at the escaped slave and raised the gun in his hand. "Deputy Marshal, do you want to execute him?" Zhuge Qingting looked at Zhao the leader. Zhao narrowed his eyes. "Why are the things produced by the technical department so poor? I should be satisfied when their technology can reach half of that of the Zishan base." She waved her hand and said, "I, Zhao keep my word. Let that slave run away. I hope he has better luck and successfully escapes to the territory of Snow Worship Cult. However, the people in charge of this project in the technical department will all be locked in a small black room for 3 days." Zhuge Qingting nodded. Yes. He gave orders to the soldiers on his trail and finally freed the surviving slave. Zhao beautiful sword eyebrows were raised upside down, obviously in a very unhappy mood. Zhuge Qingting comforted, "Boss, our technicians are not as good as Zishan base, but there is no way to do that. In terms of weapon research and development, professionals are in the army. When the end of the world just came, talents were snatched away by them. We can only select talents from universities and research institutes in the nearby area." Zhao glanced at him, his eyes still cold. "For these damned slaves, we also broke our hearts. If they weren't always thinking of running away, why would I put so much effort on them? That hypocritical woman worshipping snow is just using them as bait. Do they really think that there will be a holy mother in the last days?" The Snow Worship Cult is currently the only organization among the 4 major forces that is not based on official shelters. But it is the organization with the largest number of people. because compared to other forces that rely on force to rule, their method is inspired by religious beliefs. According to rumors, the leader of snow worship cult has magical powers, can heal all human sufferings, both physical and spiritual. Most importantly, everyone is equal there, and everyone can get food and shelter. There is no discrimination and oppression. Such rumors began to spread among the major forces in Xianhe City. As a result, civilians in the Yangsheng base continued to lose. But in the last days, people are also an important resource. Without a large population, how to engage in labor? How to form an army, to compete with other forces for territory and resources. So it is impossible for Zhao Hanglian to just sit back and watch this situation. And the method she adopted was strong suppression. Every civilian in Yangsheng base has her mark on her face. In this way, even if they escape, they can be recognized and easily recovered. And if the snow worshippers dare to take in the slaves with the mark of flames, they must take the risk of starting a war with the Yangsheng base. But even so, the snow cult is still absorbing those escaped slaves, both openly and secretly. This also led to the most tense relationship between Yangsheng base and snow worship sect. And they are not like Zishan base. The Zishan base is completely underground, so there is no fear of civilians escaping. The slaves at the Yangsheng base are going to produce in the oil refinery on the ground. No matter how tight they are, there will always be people who yearn for freedom and are willing to risk their lives. Zhao Hanglian turned around and walked outside the factory building. Zhu Qingting hurriedly followed behind her and said, as long as we can cut off a piece of fat in the Zishan base, we can relieve the current pressure. In the final analysis, in the last days, the source of all problems is the lack of supplies. Zhao Hanglian waved his hand, but if you want to occupy Lujiang district and Zishan district, you must stabilize the rear. For the people in the technical department, to speed up the research, you must stabilize the function of this explosive collar. Safety can be put aside first, but it must be guaranteed to explode. Zhu Qingting nodded, keeping Zhao Hanglian's instructions in mind. Suddenly, Zhao Hanglian stopped in her tracks, and she asked, how many of the vanguard troops sent out in the past few days have returned? Zhu Qingting replied, basically, they all came back. Even if they haven't come back yet, they still gave us a report. He paused, and said, except for the plateau team. No one has returned, and there is no news to report back. Zhao Hanglian frowned when he heard it was plateau. Gao Yuan is her cousin, who used to be the captain of the Xianhe armed police force. However, this cousin has a bit of an unruly temperament. Except for Zhao Hanglian, no one in the Yangsheng base is convinced. This guy is still rebellious at such an old age. Zhao Hanglian didn't take Gao Yuan's loss of contact seriously at the beginning, so it's not surprising that Gao Yuan's behavior is absurd. After the end of the world, many people have become weird, and she herself is not much better. But suddenly, a strange feeling flashed in her heart. She felt that things were not that simple. Zhao Hanglian looked at Zhu Qingting. He shouldn't be in any danger, right? Hearing this, Zhu Qingting adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses. At present, the 5 major forces in Xianhe City, if you also count the Zishan base where it is not clear whether there are any remaining forces, the relationship between them is very delicate. Everyone dare not start a war lightly, even in the face of the bastards of the snow worship sect who are recruiting people everywhere. We don't want to have a big conflict. So even if Gao Yuan meets people from other forces, the other party should give him face. Unless. A cold light flashed under Zhu Qingting's glasses. What they are fighting for is a particularly precious resource. Only the other party can break the tacit agreement and attack. Zhao Hanglian's gaze focused. The main resource points in Xianhe City have been occupied by our major forces. Of course, the remaining resources are important, but they will not trigger a full-scale conflict over them. I'm more assured of other forces. The Chaoyu base will not attack us. The Qingpu base's behavior style is also that no one will attack me, and I will not attack anyone. Then, only the snow worshippers are the most unstable. After thinking about it for a while, Zhao Hanglian cautiously said to Zhu Qingting, continue to contact Gao Yuan. Be sure to contact him. If you really can't get in touch, there is a high probability that something happened to him. Zhu Qingting's complexion couldn't help becoming serious. It is impossible for any force to bear the price of the death of a foreigner in vain. So once something happens on the plateau, it means that one side will not hesitate to go to war with them. Then it will have a huge impact on the entire Yangsheng base, and it can even be said that it will have a huge impact on the entire pattern of Xianhe City. Chapter 361. On the side of the Yangsheng base, the loss of contact with the plateau aroused the vigilance of Xiao Honglian and Zhu Qingting. They immediately sent people to contact Gao Yuan, and sent people to search near Hongyuan Materials Factory in Lujiang District. After a day of investigation, they fed back the results of the investigation to Xiao Honglian and Zhu Qingting. We found that the factory building of Hongyuan Materials was severely damaged, and almost all the materials inside were removed. In addition, there was no trace of Captain Gao and others. They disappeared even with their cars. This information was somewhat terrifying to Xiao Honglian and Zhu Qingting. Completely disappeared? Serious murderous intent emerged in Xiao Honglian's eyes. No matter how arrogant Gao Yuan is, he would not dare to disobey my order and disconnect from the base without authorization and go elsewhere. So it can be concluded that something must have happened to him. Xiao Honglian was very angry. Gao Yuan is her cousin, although she has an average relationship with this cousin, but Gao Yuan's accident is equivalent to slapping her in the face. In this era of the weak and the strong, once you show tolerance or cowardice, you will be eaten away by other wolves. So she had to solve this problem with thunderous means. Xiao Honglian turned to look at Zhu Qingting. Is there a way to find out their location? There should be a positioning device for their satellite phones in the car. Zhu Qingting said, this is the most confusing part. We can't find a positioning signal at all, and they seem to have disappeared out of thin air. What? A hint of hesitation appeared in Xiao Honglian's eyes. In this way, the opponent came prepared. They definitely didn't do it temporarily, but they have long wanted to launch an attack on our Yangsheng base. Is Gao's disappearance just a signal for war? Xiao Han practiced crazy brain supplementation and doubted all opponents that could be doubted. Of course, she still doesn't know about Zhang Yi's existence, so even if she was killed, she would never expect such a powerful force to exist. Zhao base, Qingpu base, or Snow Worship sect? Who did it? All three have this strength. Or maybe the Zishan base was not completely wiped out, but shifted. Due to the lack of intelligence, it was difficult for Xiao Honglian to make an accurate judgment. But the more people think about it, the easier it is to think about things in a complicated direction, because there are too many possibilities. Zhu Qingting said to her, under the current situation, Gao Yuan is missing. We don't have a good way to find out his movements, so we can't judge who the enemy is. Xiao Honglian sat on the chair, raised her slender and straight legs, and fell into deep thought. The Qingpu base is located in the northwest. Even if they want to occupy the territory of the Zishan base, they can only start from the northwest. It is impossible to travel long distances to find the plateau in the southeast corner. The Zhao base is the closest to the plateau and the others. Could it be them? The Snow Worship cult has always been submissive and dare not compete with our several bases. But the leader of the cult is not a good thing at first glance and must have evil intentions. It is also very likely that it is her. Zhu Qingting next to him came over, bowed and said, I think the incident happened closest to Chaoyu base. Why don't we contact them first and see what they say? The relationship between Chaoyu base and Yangsheng base has always been relatively good. After all, if the seagoing ships of Chaoyu base want to go to sea, they must be provided with fuel by Yangsheng base. On the other hand, Chaoyu base provided Yangsheng base with various seafood as food. However, the main reason is that Chaoyu base is more dependent on Yangsheng base. Xiao Honglian thought for a while and said lightly, don't think that we have a very good relationship with Chaoyu base. We are just using each other. Those guys are also very jealous of our refinery. Zhu Qingting said with a smile, but now, they still dare not conflict with us. Xiao Honglian nodded, then contact them. Xiao Honglian took out her satellite phone and directly called Wei Dinghe, the leader of Chaoyu base. Wei Dinghe's phone was connected. Xiao Honglian's temperament is relatively straightforward, and after a few simple greetings, he directly entered the topic. Wei Dinghe, my cousin Gao Yuan's Hongyuan Group factory in Lujiang district has disappeared. Do you know about this? When Wei Dinghe on the opposite side heard this, he immediately understood that Zhao Hanglian was suspicious of him. His tone sank. You guys went very fast. But I can tell you, this matter has nothing to do with our Chaoyu base. Also, some of us are missing. The subordinate Wang Ruxuan and others he sent to the Zishan base for investigation died in the hands of Zhang Yi. Because of this incident, Wei Dinghe was also in a state of uncertainty, not knowing who did it. Zhao Hanglian was a little surprised. Your people are missing too? Where? Zishan base. The people I sent to investigate are gone. There is also a strong alien among them. Wei Dinghe said coldly, the aliens in Xianhe City are so scarce. Even if there are aliens living outside, it is difficult to compete with my well-trained fighters. So I also want to ask you guys, if you did it. There are also differences between different people. Alien from a large organization possesses abundant resources and weapons and equipment. After ordinary people mutate, it is more difficult to become stronger, and it is even difficult to survive. For example, Li Jian, his ability is limited by the living conditions, so there is very little room for him to display it. Zhao Hanglian understood what Wei Dinghe meant, and he also suspected that there were some forces who made a secret move, which naturally included their Yangsheng base. So we all have losses. Zhao Hanglian's gaze became much clearer. In the entire Xianhe city, not many are capable of attacking both of us at the same time. The blacksmiths at King Pu base don't like fighting, and they have no reason to start a war with us. So, the only possibility is that someone from the Snow Worship sect did it. Wei Dinghe smiled. Yes, you are right. It must be someone who worships the Snow sect. Elimination is easy to do. Nowadays, Snow Worship cult is indeed the biggest suspect. But why is Wei Dinghe laughing? Because both he and Zhao Hanglian wanted to go to one place. They have long disliked the Snow Worship cult. This religious organization has been absorbing survivors from the entire Xianhe city. The number of surviving people in Xianhe city is about 100 million, and the exact number is unknown. Once the Snow Worship cult recruits more people, it will affect their access to labor, and even make their slaves flee. Unhappy emotions have accumulated for a long time, and now that they have a valid reason, they certainly won't miss it. Anyway, the suspicion of worshipping the snow cult is the biggest, and it is better to beat them than to let them go. Even if they didn't do it, they can take the opportunity to vent their anger fiercely. Wouldn't it be the best of both worlds? Chapter 362 Borrowing a Knife. Zhao Hanglian said to Wei Dinghe, what do you say? You can't swallow this stone, can you? Wei Dinghe smiled coldly. Wang Ruxuan is my confidant, and if those guys from Bexagio dare to kill him, I will make them pay 10 times the price. The corners of Zhao Hanglian's mouth raised slightly. Well, let's take this opportunity to teach them a lesson. After the discussion between the two parties, they decided to take the opportunity to attack the Snow Worship cult headquarters in Xianfeng district. As for whether the person who killed their subordinates was the Snow Worship sect, it is not the most important thing at present. After calling first, ask the question again. It's a good practice. Therefore, for various purposes, the two bases decided to gather troops to attack the Snow Worship sect. If the Snow Worshippers knew about this, they would be very depressed. He obviously didn't do anything, but he suffered an indiscriminate disaster. And Zhang Yi, the real culprit of the incident, is currently building defense lines and shelters at home. Everyone went into battle together, and no one was lazy. Soon, the outer line of defense was basically completed. The main structure is the huge ice block intercepted by Lu Jiang and the steel bars seized from the warehouse of the Zishan base. The construction conditions are relatively simple, and they are all done by hand. However, in freezing weather, the strength of these materials will not be much worse than concrete. The point is that the materials are cheap and can be found everywhere. Anyway, Zhang Yi didn't expect the first line of defense to be invincible. It only existed as a buffer zone. If you encounter a powerful enemy and can break through the first line of defense, you don't need to feel distressed or worried at all. You can buy time for everyone to retreat to the shelter and you're done. After building the prototype of the defense line, Zhang Yi began to add various tanks, chariots, artillery and other heavy weapons to it. Modern weapons can be controlled by computers. After installation, connect to Zhang Yi's mobile phone through the wireless network. In this way, when encountering an enemy attack, Zhang Yi only needs to press the shooting button on the mobile phone, and there will be a spectacular scene of thousands of guns firing. One Peo may be exaggerating. However, 7% of the firepower of the Zishan base has been deployed, and the power is also very terrifying. In addition to weapons, there are many cameras installed high on the wall, which can monitor the situation outside at any time. However, this thing can only be used for scouting before the battle. Once a fight starts, it will be destroyed in a matter of minutes. After the line of defense was laid out, it was time to repair the shelter. After the materials were prepared by Luke Karen, the decoration work was handed over to Uncle Yu, who had full life skills. He climbed the scaffolding, picked up the tools, and did the bricklaying work fluently. Although the walls are not as beautiful as professional construction workers, Zhang Yi only needs to be strong and durable. After 3 busy days, the entire shelter and defense line were finally built. Zhang Yi was still on guard in his heart that people from the 2 bases would come to attack, but everything went smoothly, and his heart relaxed a lot. But this result may not be a good thing. In a sense, if they found out that their aliens had been killed, they hurriedly led people to search and attack the shelter, which meant that the leader of that faction was a reckless man. People without brains are easy to deal with. I'm afraid of encountering an opponent with a calm mind, serious thinking, and preparation of countermeasures. So far they haven't taken any action, and I haven't even found a trace of the spies. It seems that the leaders of the 2 bases, Zhao Yu and Yang Sheng, are not simple. Zhang Yi said to himself with serious eyes. But he didn't know that now those 2 families had integrated their troops and ran far away to Xianfeng district to fight against the snow worship cult. It's not that they are overly cautious, it's just that they never thought that there is such a powerful force as Zhang Yi. While Zhang Yi was thinking, the others cheered together to celebrate the completion of the project. It is very rewarding for everyone to be able to work together and complete a project. In fact, many people are not very close to each other, they only get together because of Zhang Yi's relationship. But through such activities, they got to know each other a lot better. At this time, Liang Yu came over and said to Zhang Yi, I'm going to deliver some food to the students. Zhang Yi came back to his senses. Oh, okay. He took out food for 10 people from the different space, which he found from the warehouse of Zishan base, which belonged to Zhang Yi, who didn't eat it himself, and gave it to others. Liang Yu took a bag of food, said thank you with a smile, and walked towards Zujia town alone. Zhang Yi looked at her back with a playful look in his eyes. To be honest, he was really worried before that. If one day Liang Yu knew that he was going to deal with these students, he might turn against him. So Zhang Yi had already made preparations, and the villains let Yang Xingxin and Luke Karen be the ones. Including the recent period, he was also a good old man in front of Liang Yu. Secretly, they asked Yang Xingxin and Luke Karen to brainwash Liang Yu. In this way, if that day really comes, Liang Yu has no reason to blame Zhang Yi who has been helping her. I'm such a genius. Zhang Yi took a deep breath. It's the perfect way to kill with a knife without getting your hands dirty. After a while, Liang Yu came back. From the expression on her face, it can be seen that she is not in a good mood. Apparently the students had said something to her again. But Liang Yu didn't take the initiative to bring it up, and Zhang Yi wouldn't ask. Anyway, someone would do the job for him. Sure enough, Yang Xingxin stepped forward and asked in a very sensible way, Mr. Liang, why do you have a bad face? Did they say bad things to you again? Liang Yu was already a little uncomfortable in her heart, but when Yang Xingxin punctured her like this, she suddenly became emotional. Many people are like this. When they encounter something that goes wrong, they actually forget it in a short time. But if someone chatted with her, her emotions would become more and more excited. Liang Yu said the matter again. It turned out that in recent days, because Liang Yu did not provide them with any help other than food, they complained a lot, but they had to go fishing for food. Back and forth, forcing them to be self-reliant. The students survived, but instead of thanking Liang Yu, they begged her to take everyone to the shelter every time. At first it was a pleading, moral kidnapping, but later it became urgent, and some people even cursed. Even though Liang Yu helped them too much, after the end of the world, these once pampered students all had mental problems and even forgot their past kindness. How could Liang Yu not feel sad when he saw such a scene? They are too much. I even think, Mr. Liang, you shouldn't care about them anymore. Just let them die. Yang Xingxin held Liang Yu's hand and said slowly in a low voice, Ms. Liang did nothing wrong. They are all at fault. Even if you leave them alone, you have no responsibility. Liang Yu's mood improved slightly. Is that so? No matter what. I'm also their teacher. She sighed softly. After experiencing so many things since the end of the world, coupled with the unremitting brainwashing by Lu Karen and Yang Xingxin, her thinking has quietly changed. In fact, in her heart, she no longer had much hope for those students. It was just the last trace of obsession left, which made her unable to bear to see them die before her eyes. Chapter 363. The defense of the shelter has been prepared. Both the outermost great wall of ice and snow and the restoration results of the shelter have reached a level that Zhang Yi is satisfied with. He gave everyone an order that they were not allowed to leave the line of defense for a while. No one has an opinion on this. After all, they have already collected enough supplies. Even if they live in Young Manor for a lifetime, they will not be short of supplies. Only Liang Yu still needs to go out every day to insist on delivering food to her students. Zhang Yi didn't stop her. Instead he kept asking about her and the students' affairs in recent days. If you really think there is danger, we can discuss letting them move to live near the shelter. Of course, since all of us are not familiar with them, this matter has to be decided by everyone in a meeting. Zhang Yi showed enough sincerity, but anyone who knows him well knows that the so-called meeting is just a formality. As long as he opens his mouth to decide, no one will object. Uncle Yu thinks that he owes Zhang Yi a lot of kindness and has always supported Zhang Yi's approach. Not to mention Fatty Zhu, he has always been Zhang Yi's loyal younger brother, wishing he could hang on Zhang Yi's lap every day. To put it simply, if Liang Yu really spoke up and wanted to take the students over, then only one person in the entire shelter would agree to her proposal, that is Zhang Yi himself. As for the others, they will resolutely oppose it under Zhang Yi's hint. Liang Yu has always regarded himself as a righteous and kind warrior. Although he will be disappointed at that time, he will not blame Zhang Yi. Sure enough, upon hearing Zhang Yi's proposal, Liang Yu was quite moved. But after hesitating for a while, she slowly shook her head. Don't do that for now. In the past few days, Xingxin and Karen and I have talked a lot. The experience in Shine King Academy has hurt them a lot. At that time, they were excluded by their classmates, and I, as a teacher, couldn't shirk my responsibility. Let the others practice in Zujia town first. Liang Yu raised her head. Her eyes were full of beautiful fantasies about the future. After all, everyone is living peacefully now, and we haven't seen any dangerous things happen. There's really no need to be so nervous. Liang Yu said with a sunny smile. In fact, if you think about it carefully, if the people who are still alive can live in peace, they have no reason to invade others everywhere. I was so nervous before, maybe a little too anxious. She didn't know that Zhang Yi had already encountered people from the Yangsheng base in a factory 25 kilometers away from the shelter and killed them. Otherwise, she would definitely not be able to say such easy words. Zhang Yi nodded with a smile and praised. It would be great if you can have this mentality. Although we live in the end times, it is very important to maintain a good mentality. He stretched his waist. I should also learn from you. Don't be jittery all day long. The world is still very beautiful, and tomorrow is full of hope. Right? Seeing Zhang Yi's lazy appearance, Liang Yu couldn't help but burst out laughing. She was very pretty. It's rare that these words can come out of your mouth. As she spoke, she flicked her ponytail, turned her head, and blinked at Zhang Yi. Then shall we start today's martial arts class? Zhang Yi smiled and followed. What are we practicing today? You learn martial arts to deal with sudden close combat, so grappling jujitsu is very useful for you. Today we will start with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Liang Yu and Zhang Yi went down to the third basement floor together and started daily hard training. Jiu-Jitsu does have some skills, and the two of them got entangled with each other as they practiced their bodies. Liang Yu's technique is very good, often using scissors to clamp his neck with her tight thighs, or tie his head under the armpit and force him to surrender by force. Zhang Yi enjoyed the beating. Zhang Yi could feel that this woman's mentality changed day by day as she entered the shelter. In the past, she was desperate for the end times. Because I can't see the future, let alone the meaning of life, I can only pin my hope in life on protecting those students. But now, she has entered the shelter and enjoys a better and more comfortable life than when she was a teacher at Azure Academy. Born in sorrow, die in happiness. A comfortable environment can wear away the ice in people's hearts and let people begin to appreciate the beauty of life. Although Liang Yu still insisted on delivering food to the students every day, she communicated more with other people in the shelter and had more smiles on her face. Zhang Yi thinks this is a good tendency. Only a person who wants something and has the desire to live can conquer her and make her completely a pawn in his hand. That night, Zhang Yi lay on the bed, thinking for a long time. Are you going to do this or not? He opened the door to the dimension, scanned the confiscated satellite phone in his consciousness, and fell into deep thought. The relationship between Liang Yu and them is getting better and better, and they are now in the honeymoon period. It's time to clean up those troublesome students in Zujia town. The method is very simple. He thought of it when he killed the soldiers at Yangsheng base last time. As long as these satellite phones are placed in their houses, the people at the Yangsheng base will definitely be able to find them. In the last days, human lives are worthless, and the furious Yangsheng base will definitely not let them go. Killing people with a borrowed knife can form a perfect closed loop. However, there is also a risk in doing so, that is, attracting people from the Yangsheng base and even the Chaoyu base in advance. However, such an obvious target is Young Manor 101. Even if Zhang Yi does not take the initiative to expose it, it will only be a matter of time before he is discovered. How should I choose? Is there a possibility that people from the two bases have been unable to find out and I killed their people? In this way, we will live in peace in the future, and I will live my happy life. They will be their emperors of Xianhei City? This is a beautiful fantasy in Zhang Yi's heart. If possible, he absolutely does not want to conflict with anyone or any force. But soon, Zhang Yi smiled and shook his head. It's a beautiful idea. How can there be such a good thing? The conflict between him and several other major forces is inevitable. What he killed was Yiren, that is, the core members of Yangsheng and Zaoyu's base, and it was impossible for the other party to give up the investigation. And even if it was lucky that it was not discovered after the Zishan base was destroyed, several other companies would definitely come to carve up the two major areas of Zishan and Julu. At that time, will they be able to tolerate the existence of Zhang Yi, a powerful elite group? And Zhang Yi, it is impossible to tolerate the strong enemy from the side of the couch. At least within the scope of his life, it is impossible to offend other forces. People are in the rivers and lakes, they can't help themselves. Zhang Yi narrowed his eyes. Tolerance and retreat can't bring peace, so I'll make a bright future. As long as you are afraid of them, wouldn't it be fine? Chapter 364 Gifts. Zhang Yi is a natural pessimist who likes to plan for the worst. Therefore, although he already possessed a strong enough combat power, he was still prepared for danger in times of peace. In fact, in terms of armed forces alone, the combat power he now possesses can be compared with the most powerful organization in Xianhei City, Zishan Base. Although ordinary soldiers don't have it, he is far ahead in the application of weapons and equipment. There is no room for aliens in the Zishan Base, and the heavy firearms in the warehouse can only eat ashes underground. Zhang Yi can carry them to the ground for use. Coupled with the fact that he has a huge team of aliens in his hands, he will be able to fight head to head when he meets the army of Zishan base at this time. Only thinking about defense and not taking the initiative to attack, my chances of winning should be %. Zhang Yi murmured to himself, frowning slightly. I'm only % sure, rounding up to % at most. If you go out and fight them, what's the difference between that and death? With firm eyes, he clenched his fist and said, it's decided, I won't leave the line of defense even if I'm killed. As he said that, he took out the Gaoyuan satellite phone from the different space, then called Huata and whispered a few words to it. That night, In the dead of night, the entire shelter fell into silence. The door of Zhang Yi's room was suddenly opened slowly. Hua quietly walked out of the room, with a satellite phone in its mouth, and walked down the stairs without a sound. The door of the shelter opened slowly. Hua left the shelter, and ran quickly towards Zujia town on the other side of the river. Qianhe City, Xianfeng District. Tall buildings were buried under the white snow. This used to be the busiest area in Qianhe City. There was a lot of traffic every day, and the lights were feasting every night. But after the end of the world, this place seems to have turned into a forest of tombstones in the snow and ice. The grey-black cement building is lifeless, just like the world in front of us. But in a cathedral in Qianfeng District, candles were brightly lit at this time, and thousands of believers crowded together densely. They looked up devoutly ahead and muttered prayers. As far as everyone looked, under the huge cross was a young woman in a white robe and a white headscarf. She crossed her hands and closed her eyes devoutly, with a compassionate expression on her face. As she lightly opened her lips, a deep and melodious prayer echoed in the church. Snow in the sky, everything on the earth. Our bodies are born from the earth. Our souls come from heaven. The sun and the moon shine on our bodies. The pure snow washes our souls. Give this body to the cold wind that blows across the earth. Thank God for granting miracles to the land where the people of Snow God live. May our hearts be always in good health. I wish to share the joy with all my fellow man. May I share their grief with them. Please always praise the people of Snow Worship Cult. Let us bear witness with our own soul and body. When Yuan Kangai, the leader of Snow Worship Cult, chanted the prayer, a strange force spread throughout the church. Her voice has a certain magical power, which can soothe people's hearts and make people forget about hunger, cold and pain. Everyone thought it was a miracle, so they bowed their heads more piously. To the teacher of Jesus Christ and Sakamuni, to the great snow god, and to the human body of the snow god, Yuan Kangai, the leader of worship snow cult. After Yuan Kangai finished reading the prayer, he slowly turned around and faced the crowd. It can be seen from her collagen-filled face that she is not very old, no more than 20 years old at most. But no one dared to question her authority. Even her powerful priests bowed down respectfully when facing her. Because everything they have now was given by Yuan Kangai. She is one of the most amazing extraordinary beings in this land. Because she has a power called blessing, which can help others awaken their powers. It was by virtue of this ability that she was able to pull together such a large religious team in a near desperate environment. The prayer session is over, and next is the gift session. There was a brief turmoil among the crowd, but it subsided quickly. Everyone looked at Yuan Kangai, as if they were looking up at a god. A scrawny lady was holding the child, walked through the crowd step by step, and staggered to Yuan Kangai. Trembling, she knelt down, and lifted her child up high. Yuan Kangai lowered his head and glanced. The child's complexion was already a little pale, and his breath was dying, as if he couldn't survive. There was a look of compassion in Yuan Kangai's eyes, and he gently covered his forehead with his right hand. A warm current, a breeze, and a ray of white light passed through the church. After a while, the baby slowly opened its eyes, and then let out a loud cry. Wow! Hearing this voice, the eyes of every believer in the church shone with excitement. Miracle! Miracle! Praise the great snow god! Praise the great snow god, your majesty the human body leader. This is another ability, gift, of hers, which can heal the diseases of the body. Being able to attract so many congregants is largely due to the gift's ability. Gift links like this were repeated many times. A little tiredness appeared on Yuan Kangai's face. A man in white clothes and long hair standing beside him saw this, stepped forward and said, "Master, please rest for a while. The gift can wait until tomorrow." Hearing these words, there are still some believers who are sick and have not been cured by the gift, and there is a flash of anxiety in the eyes. In such an environment, if any minor illness waits for a day, it may cause people to die silently in their sleep. Yuan Kangai shook his head slowly and said lightly, "Go on." Yuan Kangai's deputy, Zhang Yi, the high priest of the snow worship cult, stepped aside helplessly. In the snow worship cult, Yuan Kangai represents the will of the snow god, and her thoughts cannot be violated by anyone. However, during the blessing ceremony, a violent explosion suddenly came from outside. Then there was a series of piercing gunshots. The church suddenly became agitated, and many women were so frightened that they hugged their children quickly, closing their eyes and not daring to open them. Yuan Kang'ai looked at the source of the voice expressionlessly and sighed softly. A chill flashed in the eyes of the high priest Zhang Yi next to her. Tongzhan, Daimei, protect the leader. Han Chang, Li Qian, Wu Huan, come out with me to meet the enemy. On both sides of the altar stood a group of priests who worshipped the snow cult. They were second only to the leader Yuan Kang'ai and the high priest Zhang Yi in worshipping the snow cult. Yuan Kang'ai is a symbol of snow worship cult and usually does not directly manage educational affairs. So the high priest, Zhang Yi, took care of the church's affairs on her behalf, as well as fighting against foreign enemies. Following Zhang Yi's order, two powerful priests immediately stood vigilantly on both sides of Yuan Kang'ai, responsible for vigilance. And Zhang Yi led the people past the congregation and walked out of the church. Yuan Kang'ai crossed his fingers and prayed silently. May Snow God bless his believers and take us away from war and suffering. In the church, the adult males seemed to have been inspired by something, and they stood up one after another, with some kind of frantic enthusiasm and piety in their eyes. They went to the gate, followed by the priests. After they left, the church door was tightly shut. But Yuan Kang'ai just said calmly, continue with the gift ceremony. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 365 The Great War. Xianfeng District. Outside the base camp of the snow worship cult, there was continuous artillery fire. The coalition forces of Yangsheng Base and Chaoyu Base have already arrived here. The disappearance of their subordinates made them furious, and they pointed the finger at the most suspected members of the snow worship cult. In the apocalypse, all laws have no limits, and a big fist is the absolute truth. They don't need to search for the truth. As long as they feel that the snow worship cult did it, they can launch an attack. By the way, it is also possible to clean up the increasingly powerful religious forces that they have long been uncomfortable with. Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe personally led the team. Dozens of refitted snowmobiles carried hundreds of heavily armed soldiers to the periphery of the snow worship cult and began to attack the snow worship cult's guards. The gap between the two sides in terms of weapons and equipment is too large. The two bases are officially built for war preparations, so there is no shortage of advanced weapons and sufficient ammunition. But Baeksu sect is a mixed bag, and even if there are some guns in their hands, they are mostly ordinary goods in the black market. Even if some people can shoot, the marksmanship is poor. For a time, the defending soldiers suffered heavy casualties. The bright red blood stained the white snow. Hold it. You must stand it. I can't let them destroy my homeland. For the snow god. The chariot drove across the street, heading towards the huge church at the end of the street. On both sides of the road, upstairs, there are many snow worshippers ambushing. Armed with simple weapons, they even started to fight back with stones. Some people were even brave enough to rush up with explosives, tied all over their bodies and Molotov cocktails in their hands. Although their weapons are crude, their tactics are extremely clumsy. However, relying on this refueling tactic, they launched charges again and again without fear of death, and stopped the coalition forces of the two bases abruptly. When Zhao Hanglian saw this scene, a haze appeared in his eyes. This damn cult has brainwashed its members into monsters, who are not even afraid of death. It really should be eradicated. There are simply too many followers of snow worship cult. People who were not afraid of death rushed from the street one by one, jumped from upstairs, and blew themselves up directly from the sewer to attack. People from the two bases had already prepared for this kind of attack, because this is not the first time that they have fought with the snow worship cult. Seeing them again, they still felt a little creepy. Kill over there, catch that stinky bitch Yuan Kang'ai. I'm going to tear the skin of her magic stick. Zhao Hanglian waved his hand, pointed at the church in the distance and shouted, whoever can catch her, I will reward him with 50 katas of beef. Hearing that there was such a generous reward, the soldiers under him all raised their submachine guns and roared and fired, as if they had been beaten with chicken blood. Those who worship the snow cult are not afraid of death, but are they? Living in such an era, I have long been numb, and I don't take life and death so seriously. The exchange of fire continued, and the fueling tactics of the snow worship cult could only slow down the attacking pace of the two bases, but could not stop them. After all, the gap in weaponry and combat literacy is too great. At this moment, several figures appeared at the end of the street. After seeing them, hope appeared in the eyes of the soldiers of the snow worship cult. The priests are here. Zhang Yi led the 3 priests under him, looking at the enemy opposite him with cold eyes. Kill them. The soldiers saw that there were only a few big men, and immediately turned their guns on them, and the flames gushed out crazily. But facing such a hail of bullets, Zhang Yi's face remained unmoved. He just slowly raised his right hand and stood in front of him. However, this simple movement seemed to form an impassable wall. All the bullets stopped suddenly 1 meter away in front of him, as if embedded in a soft rubber wall. As soon as Zhang Yi let go, all the bullets in front of him cracked and fell to the ground. His icy eyes calmly looked at the coalition forces on the opposite side. 2. Are you trying to tear up the peace agreement? Zhao Hanglian stared at this stern man and said word by word, Zhang Yi-san. Tearing up the peace agreement, you are the first to act, right? After she finished speaking, without giving Zhang Yi a chance to refute, she took down a huge wine jug from behind, unplugged it, and took a gulp into her mouth. Then she charged up and spewed out, and a huge fire dragon spewed out from her mouth. The crimson flames illuminated the entire street at night, and the tens of meters long street instantly melted the ice and snow. The scorching temperature caused more than a dozen members of the snow worship cult to be burned into scorched corpses. Huo went straight to Zhang Yi and the others. Even though they were all powerful aliens, they still couldn't help showing a dignified expression in the face of such a terrifying attack from Zhao Hanglian. Zhang Yi stretched his hands to the sides, and driven by his thoughts, he pulled out 2 dilapidated trucks from the ice and snow, and blocked them in front of him. Cool. The flame wave was blocked by the truck, but the scorching temperature still made Zhang Yi and several priests feel hot on their faces. Everyone hurried back a few steps. Zhang Yi shouted loudly, is there some misunderstanding? Our snow worship cult has always maintained neutrality, and will not be an enemy of any force. But Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe turned a blind eye. Since they are here, they want to deal a heavy blow to the snow worship cult. Let's ignore the truth and talk about it after the blow. Kill me. Zhao Hanglian waved his right hand forward, and the soldiers under him immediately rushed down from the car with weapons. Although they couldn't deal with aliens, they still had no problem dealing with ordinary congregants. Wei Dinghe also waved to his subordinates, and the soldiers from Chaoyu base also filed forward. Seeing that they didn't talk to him at all, Zhang Yi's eyes became more gloomy. He has already understood that the other party is clearly coming to destroy their snow worship cult. If you want them to stop, you must show enough strength. Counterattack. Don't let them get close to the church no matter what. Zhang Yi shouted loudly. Soldiers from Yangsheng base and Chaoyu base began to slaughter the believers of snow worship cult. They have excellent weapons and superior armor, which can be said to be armed to the teeth. Especially in the area of keeping out the cold, it is not comparable to the snow worshippers who only wear down jackets. Fighting in the icy and snowy night, they are confident that they can easily break through the snow worship cult's defense line, killing them and fleeing. As for the priests of the snow worship cult, the 2 leaders, Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe, took the lead, and the strangers under them fought together. Zhao Hanglian raised the jug in his hand to drink heavily, and let out a mouthful of breath, and a raging fire dragon covered the long street. The ability user of the flame system was able to display such a strong combat power in the Ice Age, which was due to the huge energy source she possessed. And beside her, Wei Dinghe also shot directly without hesitation. Life and death on the battlefield are only a moment. If you slow down by a point, you may lose everything. Wei Dinghe took a deep breath and slowly exhaled white mist from his mouth, and the temperature of the surrounding air immediately dropped by a few points. Ice Lord. Wei Dinghe's body was quickly covered by a thick layer of ice and snow, forming a thick and strong armor. He lightly pressed his right hand on the ground, and the surrounding ice and snow seemed to be detonated in an instant, and began to shatter and collapse, sweeping towards everyone who worshipped the snow cult. And his figure gradually became blurred and hard to detect in the snowstorm. Chapter 366 Mad Believers. No matter Zhao Hanglian or Wei Dinghe, they both seize the ruling power of the sanctuary through force, so they are the strongest fighting forces in their respective forces. The overall strength of the two of them is not inferior to Lingfeng, and they are even better in some aspects. Their cooperation immediately caused huge troubles for Snow Worship Sect. However, Snow Worship Cult still has a huge advantage over other forces, that is, there are more people. Whether it is ordinary congregation or alien level, it is higher than any base. Seeing that this battle had to be fought, Zhang Yi's eyes flashed with ruthlessness, and he shouted loudly, "In the name of the snow god, give them heavenly punishment." All the priests no longer hesitated, and activated their abilities one after another, and fought desperately with the aliens of the two major forces. And at this moment, the disciples of the snow worship cult came out from every corner like ants. They are ragged and skinny, but there is a crazy light in everyone's eyes, without any fear. Destroy all enemies of the snow worship cult. Kill. Holding kitchen knives and iron bars, more than a dozen believers rushed towards the battle formation of the two bases. Seeing this scene, the soldiers showed a cruel smile, and then pulled the trigger in their hands. Da 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 da. Those believers were directly swept into a sieve. Are these people crazy? They actually want to use their bodies to stop us from moving forward? A soldier sneered and mocked. But at this moment, several people around him suddenly heard a strong wind coming from above their heads. Okay. Several people raised their heads subconsciously and suddenly saw a black shadow falling down quickly. A mad-eyed snow worshipper with lit explosives strapped to his body jumped in front of them from a tall building. Boom. There was a violent explosion, broken limbs flew across, and the snow worshipper brought 6 soldiers to hell together. This scene made all the soldiers feel their scalps tingling. A captain-level alien shouted coldly, "These worshippers of the snow cult are lunatics. They will attack at all costs. Be careful." This time, there were only a few hundred soldiers they came to attack. After all, someone still needs to stay in the base camp. However, from the buildings around the church, there were thousands of believers rushing towards this side one after another. The population was so large that everyone couldn't help but gasp after seeing it. Zhao Hanglian couldn't help frowning and cursing. Damn cult. I don't know how many idiots have been coaxed into sending them to death with that stupid teaching. Zhao Hanglian didn't feel pity for these believers, but felt that they were stupid and sacrificed their lives for irrelevant people. She looked at the strangers worshipping the snow sect in front of her, and finally her eyes fell on Zhang Yi. Catch the thief first to capture the king. Zhao Hanglian turned his head and looked at Wei Dinghe. Let's cooperate and take Zhang Yi down first. Wei Dinghe nodded and said with a smile, good suggestion. Zhao Hanglian took a big gulp of high purity alcohol, and the ability called Purgatory Furnace was activated. With the activation of Zhao Hang's training ability, a series of fiery red spots began to appear on her face and hands, like a series of burning magma flowing slowly. The scorching temperature caused white smoke to rise around. After drinking alcohol, the markings on her body became brighter. The wind and snow around Wei Dinghe became more and more turbulent. In an instant, his figure disappeared from the spot, and he didn't know where he went. But Zhao Hanglian rushed directly to Zhang Yi at an incredible speed like an arrow leaving the string. Zhang Yi frowned. He sensed a dangerous aura. The next moment, his legs were grabbed tightly by someone. At some point, 2 snow-covered arms protruded from under the snow and controlled him. Wei Dinghe's face slowly emerged, looking at Zhang Yi strangely. The cold air began to spread up Zhang Yi's legs. And right in front, Zhao Hanglian punched. The fiery red fist was covered with a layer of swollen blazing flames, aiming at Zhang Yi's head. Boom. A violent explosion sounded in the center of the battlefield. A snowstorm flew, and all objects and people around were blown out. After a while, Zhang Yi panted heavily and stood behind Wu Huan and Han Chang. His right arm was scorched black, the blood was coagulated, and the fire poison entered his body. If he didn't receive timely and effective treatment, it would be extremely dangerous in the last days. Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe stood not far away, with dissatisfaction on their faces. It's a pity that the two of them joined forces and didn't kill Zhang Yixin with one blow. At the critical moment, Zhang Yixin's subordinates broke free from the entanglement of the others and rushed over to save him. Snow worship has nothing else but a lot of people. The aliens brought by the two bases this time could not entangle them. If they didn't succeed once, the other party had an understanding of their abilities and preparedness, and it might not be so easy next time. At this time, not only the aliens' battlefield was in a state of anxiety, the war between ordinary soldiers and the congregation is even more tragic. The followers of the snow worship cult only had madness in their eyes, and they were not afraid of death. Some even charged up with a spatula. The heat in their eyes makes people feel cold all over. Not only are they not afraid of death, they even seem to be seeking death on purpose. It's hard to imagine how the snow worship cult brainwashed them. Even after killing countless soldiers, his lips trembled when he saw such a scene. They killed too many members of the snow worship cult, but those people kept going forward. No one was afraid of death, and shouted the teachings of the snow worship cult to come and die. The soldiers killed so softly that they panicked. Accidents can easily happen when people panic. What's more, the soldiers of the two bases are still facing a group of lunatics. They don't hesitate to exchange 10 or 20 people for their lives. The battle lasted only 10 minutes, and more than 500 people were killed by the snow worship cult, but they also killed more than 30 base soldiers by this life-changing method. The most frightening thing was that the disciples of the snow worship cult were killing more and more people, and they continued to emerge from the ruins of the building. After all, this was once the most populous area in Xianhe City. It's hard to imagine how many followers the snow worship cult has absorbed after the end of the world. Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe also felt that the situation was not good. The madness of snow worship cult was beyond their expectations. If it was normal, when they went to a place, they only needed to shoot and kill a group of people, and the rest would obediently kneel down and surrender, or flee. And the people who worship the snow sect are all lunatics. If the fight continues, their two forces still have a great chance of winning. But this kind of loss is something they are unwilling to face. After all, there are still many small underground forces in Xianhe City, and in the northwest area of Xianhe City, there is also a powerful green base. If the fight continues, even if they can destroy the snow worship cult, they will not be able to bear the huge battle damage. Finally, Zhao Hanglian made a decision in her heart. She took a deep breath, looked at Zhang Yixin who was not far away, and said coldly, "My cousin and a dozen of his subordinates died. You are most suspected of worshipping the snow sect. Now I need you to give me a explain." Chapter 367 The Veil of Truth. If it is possible to directly destroy the snow worship cult, of course it is to fight without talking nonsense. But it is too risky to fight, and it is the best way to turn to negotiation and grab more benefits. After all, now, the two bases are still in an advantageous position. Wei Dinghe had no objection to Zhao Hanglian's actions, and he didn't want to fight anymore. My confidant and beloved general, Wang Ruxun, also died on the site of Zishan base. Now the entire Xianhe City has such strength and the most suspected one is you, the snow sect. Zhang Yixin, you have to give us an explanation today. Otherwise, our two families will definitely crush you. Following the negotiations between the leaders of the two sides, the fighting between the two sides also temporarily stopped, and the two sides called their subordinates back. When the followers of the snow worship cult retreated, it was spectacular. The terrifying number of people seemed to be in the thousands at first glance, and no one knew exactly how many there were behind the scenes. Although they knew that they were basically ordinary people and could not compare to their elite soldiers, Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe couldn't help feeling jealous. It's not without reason that they hate snow worship cult. If such an organization is allowed to continue to develop, no one knows whether they will ride on their own heads in the future. The priests of snow worship cult glared at Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe. They are not stupid. They know that the two families plan to fight to the end at the beginning, but now they choose to negotiate when they see that the situation is not right. Han Chan was about to bite his teeth into pieces. He threw the head of the Chaoyu base soldier in his hand on the ground, and his right hand showed a beast-like form with sharp claws. The death of your two families has nothing to do with our snow sect. What evidence can prove that we killed the person? When Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe heard these words, they couldn't help showing contemptuous smiles. Evidence? Do you think this is playing house? Zhao Hanglian taunted. Oh. Then do you want to call the police? You. Han Chang's face was reddened by this sentence. Indeed, nowadays there are no laws and regulations. Even killing people can be done at will. What you do depends on strength, not bullshit evidence. Even if there is no evidence, so what if someone wants to beat you? Zheng Yixin reached out and held down Han Chang. He probably understood why Yangsheng Base and Chaoyu Base suddenly tore up the peace agreement and came to attack. The snow worship cult has always abided by the agreement between us and has never killed any of you. Wei Dinghe laughed out loud. There was snow in his eyes. But apart from you, I can't think of anyone in Xianhai City who has the strength and ambition to attack both of us at the same time. And the person who made the move did such a beautiful job. He solved the two teams led by aliens without leaving a trace. The members of the Kingbo base are basically employees of the Kingbo steel plant. Those guys are hot-tempered, but they are relatively peaceful, and they don't have any expansionary ambitions. Coupled with the remote geographical location of the Kingpo steel plant, the chances of making a move in those two places at the same time are not high. Apart from the snow worship cult, I really can't think of anyone who is the most suspicious. Zheng Yixin took a deep breath. I see. But have you ever thought that in Xianhai City, besides us, there are some forces that are not weaker than us? Even forces that can rival ours? As soon as these words came out, Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe immediately frowned and retorted without hesitation. This is impossible. The 5 major areas of Xianhai City have long been divided up by them, except for the heresy of the snow worship cult, which was secretly developed at the beginning of the end of the world when other bases had no time to expand. It is impossible for other regions to have the soil to develop another large-scale force. After the 4 major bases have stabilized the internal situation of the base, the first thing to do is to clean up their respective territories, collect all materials, and subdue the population to become laborers and slaves. At the beginning of the formation of any slightly organized and large-scale forces, they will be incorporated or destroyed. How can others sleep on the side of the couch? Zheng Yixin said, this is entirely possible. Have you all forgotten what happened in Lujiang district in the past month or so? When Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe heard this, they looked at each other and fell into deep thought. Among the 5 major powers in the past, the force of the Zishan base is the strongest. Because the army in Xianhai City was completely collected by Zishan base, and their family had the most soldiers, weapons, and equipment. However, in the past month or so, their spies found that the Lujiang district of the Zishan base territory had been hearing the sound of gunfire. Moreover, they also heard the sound of large explosives exploding several times. Obviously, this is not the kind of noise that would be caused by encountering an ordinary opponent. However, no one would think that the Zishan base could be wiped out by that force. So that later, the missiles flying from the Jiangnan region destroyed the Zishan base, which made everyone subconsciously ignore the previous war, but eager to swallow the territory of the Zishan base. Zheng Yat Sen's words reminded the two of them of that weird time. Is there really any powerful force behind this? If they really still exist, doesn't it mean that even the Zishan base can't help them? Zhao Hanglian felt a little heavy. In that case, their plan to expand the original territory of the Chaoxishan base will be greatly hindered. Wei Dinghe had the same thoughts as Zhao Hanglian. No one wants another powerful opponent to appear on this land. Zheng Yixin, what you said is just to divert our hatred. Just because your upper lip touches your lower lip, do you think we'll believe it? Zhao Han has some calculations in her mind, but now that the two sides are confronting each other, she must overwhelm Zheng Yixin in terms of momentum. Pointing at Zheng Yixin with her right index finger, she said bluntly, now, you need to prove that teacher Begsu is innocent, so we can believe it. Han Chang gritted his teeth angrily and was about to scold, but Zheng Yixin stopped him. Don't be impulsive, we are really fighting now, we are not their opponents. Zheng Yixin gave Han Chang a look, signaling him to calm down. The background of snow worship cult is still too weak, even against a base force. It will be very difficult to fight. What's more, 1 against 2. If it weren't for the fact that they had so many brainwashed believers who believed that fighting for the snow worship cult would allow them to go to the kingdom of God, where food is abundant and the seasons are warm as spring, they wouldn't be able to hold on for so long. You tell them what you saw outside the Zishan base that day, Zhang Yi said, and said to Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe. Our people also went to Zishan base that day and met Wang Ruxuan from Zhao base. In addition to Wang Ruxuan and others, I also saw characters from other forces. Maybe they are the murderers you want to know. Wei Dinghe's eyes narrowed, and he immediately said, tell me, who did you see there? Who dares to attack the people in my Chao base? Wang Ruxuan is his old comrade in arms for many years, and the two have worked together at sea more than 10 years ago. Moreover, Wang Ruxuan is still a stranger. The significance of any alien to the power is very important. Han Chang stared at Wei Dinghe and Zhao Hanglian viciously with fierceness and ferocity in his eyes, holding back his anger and said, that day, I saw a few people wearing combat uniforms at the Zishan base. Chapter 368 Undercurrents Surging. Han Chang told Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe everything he saw that day. In fact, he had told Zhang Yi about these things before. It's just that the two agreed at the time that this must be the remaining stragglers at the Zishan base. Later, Han Chang didn't want to get involved in the disputes of other bases, so he left first, not knowing what would happen next. And until the two bases came together and told them that Wang Ruxuan was dead. And in another place, Gao Crossing also died. Only then did Zhang Yi realize that something was wrong. After Wei Dinghe finished listening, he said with a solemn expression, you mean, the Zishan base has not been completely destroyed yet? Are they lurking in the dark and slowly recovering their strength? That would be even more impossible. Zhao Hanglian said directly. Even the refuge in the Zishan base was destroyed by missiles. The remaining team will not be too big. At least supplies will become their biggest problem. If they really lurk, they will only slowly recover their strength. They absolutely dare not attack our two families at the same time. Zhao Hanglian sneered, folded his arms and said, don't talk about it now. Even in the past, does Chen Xinian have the guts? Zhang Yi said in a deep voice, the people in the Zishan base dare not, but it doesn't mean that other people don't dare either. Is there a possibility that the territory of the Zishan base is now occupied by another force that fought against them? Not everyone knows our forces. Maybe they don't even know that there are several powerful refuge bases like yours outside of Zishan district and Lujiang district. If he knew, I don't think he would dare to attack your people. Zhang Yi's explanation made Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghe murmur in their hearts. Although these words sound a bit unbelievable, but combined with the current situation, it is indeed the most likely answer. Eliminate all impossible options, and the remaining possibilities, no matter how unimaginable, are the closest to the truth. After all, the 5 major forces checked and balanced each other at the beginning, and no one dared to easily set off disputes. Who dares to act rashly and kill the strangers of the two families? A layman is most likely to do such a thing. Lujiang district. Zhao Han practiced reading these 3 characters with a voice that only she could hear. Their spies had found that battlefield back then. It was at the junction of Lujiang district and Zishan district, near the edge of Lujiang. As long as you search, you will soon be able to find clues. And Wei Dinghe also frowned, touched his chin, and began to think about this matter. He always felt that he had some impression of this matter, but he couldn't remember it for a while. It seems to be a seemingly important piece of information, but it also looks like a rumor. Things have come to this point. It is impossible to continue fighting. None of the 3 parties are willing to bear huge losses, because there are many people secretly waiting to be the Orioles. So after discussing with Wei Dinghe, Zhao Hanglian decided to retreat temporarily and investigate the area that Zhang Yi mentioned. That's all for today. We'll investigate. But, you remember clearly. Zhao Hanglian raised his eyebrows upside down and pointed at Zhang Yi heroically. If I find out that it was your people who did the fighting, I will come back. Next time, I will completely destroy your lair. Han Chang couldn't help his violent temper. Why are you so arrogant? If you have the ability, just let the horse come over, and then you will never come back. A contemptuous smile curled up on the corner of Zhao Hanglian's mouth, and he turned around and led the people away. She didn't even bother to say a word to Han Chang. With a cold smile on Wei Dinghei's face, without saying a word, he took his men and retreated directly. But like Zhao Hanglian, he is likely to come back at any time. Anyway, this time, their actions have achieved excellent results. That is to greatly consume the vitality of the snow worship cult and keep his losses within an acceptable range. On the way back, Zhao Hanglian and Wei Dinghei discussed the next plan. The scale of the snow worship cult's development is too fast. Relying on the brainwashing of that magic stick, it has absorbed many survivors. Wei Dinghei said with emotion. Zhao Hanglian snorted coldly. That cult leader should have died a long time ago. Now not only the surviving civilians in other areas, but even my slaves want to escape there. They are really stupid. They even believe that there is a kingdom of heaven in the last days. But they don't understand that they don't have enough power, and they are all consumables wherever they go. Wei Dinghei looked at the hot-tempered girl next to him and smiled faintly. And sometimes, those people who pretend to be for your own good on the surface are actually the ones who attack you the hardest. But why don't many people understand this? The convoys of the two bases drove halfway and finally parted ways and went back to their respective bases. Before parting, Wei Dinghei asked Zhao Hanglian, "What are you going to do next?" A meaningful smile curled up on the corner of Zhao Hanglian's mouth. "Need to talk. It's impossible for any of us to sit idly by, isn't it?" Wei Dinghei shrugged. "I mean, should we act together? After all, there may really be a powerful force in that place, and it would be dangerous to act alone. The power of Zhao Yu base is mainly at sea, and the ship in his hand is his trump card. But on land, their strength is still inferior to the Yangsheng base. Coupled with energy constraints, the Zhao Yu base often has to act according to the face of the Yangsheng base." Zhao Hanglian didn't refuse, nor agreed. She just said lightly, "Let's go back and investigate this matter first. Then we can make plans." You can't believe all the words of Snow Worship Sect. They need to use their own eyes to make judgments. There is no doubt that the Snow Worshippers hate them extremely. Therefore, Zhao Hanglian had to carefully consider the information they gave. Wei Dinghei had no choice but to say, "Well, if you think about it, I hope our two families can act together. After all, that old bastard Shen Zinian is dead now. As long as we join hands, we can control the entire Xianhei city within days." Zhao Hanglian was non-committal to Wei Dinghei's words, but said lightly, "Let's go." After finishing speaking, she ordered her men to return to Yangsheng base. Wei Dinghei looked at the Yangsheng base convoy going away and exhaled a puff of white smoke. "What a strong woman. If I can take her down, Xianhei city will belong to me." Wei Dinghei. A man with a soft and fair face came out from behind him. This was his deputy, Chen Jingwen. "Chief, this woman seems to be hiding something from us." Wei Dinghei's eyes moved slightly, and then he smiled disapprovingly. "Isn't that natural? Neither of us trusts the other completely." Having said that, the corner of his mouth revealed a hint of complacency. "Also, I seem to recall something. Who is fighting the Zishan base on the bank of the Lujiang River? It's probably the inconspicuous little character back then." Chapter 369 Sacrifice. Wei Dinghei took his own people back to Chaoyu base and immediately began to investigate the information about the mysterious force in Lujiang district. And all of this started from the text message that Lu Fengda sent to the entire Xianhei city a few months ago. The name Zhang Yi once again came into the sight of Zhao base. Yulu district, Zhang Yi, Walmart South China warehouse theft. When all kinds of clues are connected together, they gradually approach the truth of the matter. The Zhao base can find this out, and the Yangsheng base has probably guessed a little bit. But what Zhao Hanglian really cares about is not these. It came from the report of her information department. They found the satellite phone signal of Gao Crossing, who had been missing for several days. After Zhao Hanglian returned to the base, he didn't care about taking a rest and immediately came to the information department. According to the information provided by the staff of the information department, the satellite phone signals of those people were at the junction of Zishan district and Lujiang district, near the edge of Lujiang river. Although precise positioning cannot be achieved due to signal problems, the area can be shortened to within 5 kilometers. Zhujia Town, Yonk Manor. These other places where people live near here. Zhuge Qingting helped himself with his gold-rimmed glasses and said to Zhao Honglian, Yonk Manor is the most wealthy area in Xianhai City, and there are thousands of villages in Zhujia Town. It is very likely that the forces that will fight against the Zishan base are here. Zhao Honglian's eyes flickered on and off, and she was thinking about the pros and cons of this matter. Was her person killed by that mysterious force? Why did they kill her people? And why does the signal disappear after a period of time and then reappear? Everything looked so suspicious, as if someone was doing something on purpose. It seems that we can only send someone to investigate first. Zhao Honglian said softly. Zhuge Qingting heard the words and asked, do you want to call Wei Dinghei? Let them send people to investigate together. It will be safer. Zhao Honglian waved his hand, rejecting Zhuge Qingting's proposal. It's not necessary. There was a look of pride in her eyes, although we don't know how strong this mysterious force is. But after a long battle with Zishan base, their strength will definitely be greatly reduced. So I judge that their strength at their peak is similar to that of Zishan base. The Zishan base is destroyed, and they are not much better. If they are really disabled, we can just catch the leak. Zhuge Qingting thought for a while, and said, but if you don't know the strength of the opponent, it is still dangerous to do so. After all, they killed our two teams with different people one after another. Zhao Honglian thought of his cousin, and couldn't help shaking his head. Although he is a foreigner, his strength can only be said to be at the bottom of our base. This time, when Dan Hu was sent there, he did the safest thing. Don't worry about them at Chaoyu base. Wei Dinghei is an old fox. If it wasn't because they asked for Yangsheng base, it would be impossible for them to be so polite to me now. Seeing that the leader had made up his mind, Zhuge Qingting stopped talking and asked someone to call Dan Hu over. Xianfeng district. After the war, the headquarters of the snow worship cult was in a mess, with broken corpses everywhere, and the ground was stained red with black blood. Women and children were inside the church, well protected by snow worship cult soldiers. Those who died in battle were all adult male believers. Zhang Yi stroked his arm, which was scorched by Zhao Honglian's punch, revealing hideous flesh and bones. But because it was too cold, he didn't feel much pain at this time, but was a little weak. The high priest, Han Chang and the others looked at him worriedly, and were a little terrified when they saw the hideous wound on his arm. It was almost at that time, Zhang Yi was joined by Zhao Honglian and Wei Dinghei in seconds. The peak combat power of the two bases is no joke. They can become the leaders of their respective bases, and they don't know how many people they kill to get to the top. It's okay, I'll just ask the leader for treatment. Zhang Yi pulled a white fox fur cloak to cover the wound, then slowly turned and walked towards the church. Here, you clean up. He slowly closed his eyes. The mysterious clarity in his eyes disappeared, but a look of exhaustion flashed across his eyes. At this moment, the believers who were brave enough to fight to defend the snow worship cult with sticks in their hands felt a little blurred in front of them. The next moment, they saw the mountain of corpses and sea of blood in front of them, and only then did they feel the pain from the wounds on their bodies. What? I don't know how many people covered their wounds and cried out in pain. Among the crowd, several women in white religious robes stepped out immediately, raised their hands and shouted, "Heroic warriors! You have been blessed by the snow god, making you fearless, and your souls will go to the kingdom of God, where you will find peace and happiness." This kind of slogan alone is of course useless to the wounded. Some female believers in nun-like attire carried medicine boxes and quickly searched for the less injured among the crowd. In the absence of drugs, in fact, only a simple bandage can be done to stop the bleeding, and even disinfection can't be done. Wait a minute, I can still save it. A wounded man with a severed arm looked at the nun passing in front of him and stretched out his hand to ask her for help. The nun lowered her head and saw him seriously injured and covered her mouth in surprise. Her eyes were full of pity, and she even shed a tear. May the snow god save all suffering in the world and bestow a happy and beautiful paradise on your devout believers. She walked over, slowly knelt down in front of the seriously injured person, held his remaining hand. Her eyes were gentle like a mother staring at a child. You can no longer serve the human body of God in the world, so go back to the kingdom of God, to serve God's true self. Before the believer could speak, the nun took out a sharp scalpel from her body and stabbed it firmly into the main artery in his neck, forehead. Before he died, the believer was still looking at the nun in front of him with disbelieving eyes. The nun reached out her hand in compassion to close his eyes. I'm so envious of you. You can go to see God so soon. Such a scene is just a norm on the battlefield. Severely injured people cannot survive because the snow worship cult takes in too many congregants. It is impossible to have so many medicines to treat seriously injured people. But it would be cruel to directly say that killing the seriously injured. But it seemed a lot gentler to send them to meet the snow god ahead of time. Over time, this belief has even been planted in the hearts of many believers. Those who can die for the snow god and dedicate their lives can go to the snow god's kingdom. Only the most devout believers can go there. The road to the kingdom of God is paved with gold and precious stones. There is endless food in the kingdom of God, and the 4 seasons are like spring, which can realize all your dreams that are difficult to realize in the world. God is omniscient and omnipotent. Zhang Yi went to the leader Yuan Kang'ai alone to heal his wounds. The rest of the affairs will naturally be handed over to the other priests. Han Chang's eyes are always full of stubbornness and fierceness. He folded his arms and gritted his teeth with hatred as he watched the scene of heavy casualties. Those hateful guys came here on purpose to find fault. They say they want to avenge their subordinates, but they have no proof, and they beat them without listening to the explanation. It's really disgusting. Seeing this, several other priests could only comfort him helplessly. They're afraid of us, Li Kan said leisurely. They are afraid that more people will gather under the snow god's light, so they are eager to destroy us. But how can these stupid villains understand that the will of the gods cannot be violated? Several people clasped their hands together, praising the great snow god and its human body, Yuan Kang'ai. Then, Chang Han set about arranging people to bring those wounded back to recuperate. As for those corpses that cannot be wasted, they were transported to an abandoned building behind the church. Han Chang and Wu Huan were in charge of ordering the order and guarding against the enemies who might go and return. Those believers carried the corpse to the entrance of the abandoned building and then left the place. This place is the holy place of the snow worship cult, and no one is allowed to approach it except the leader and priests. Not long after they left, dense blood-colored vines suddenly protruded from the depths of the building, enveloping the corpses and dragging them into the depths of the building. At this time, inside the building, there was a strange red light shining. A huge blood-colored plant took root deep in the earth, and vines spread all over every corner of the entire building. Huge ellipsoid-shaped red cocoons hang from the ceiling of each floor, and there are vaguely visible humanoid things inside. Bloody vines wrapped the corpses delivered one by one, and hung them on the walls and ceiling. As a burst of red mist sprayed out from the air holes of the vines, the whole building was dazzled with light and shadow like a lost illusion. Afterwards, blood-colored apple-like fruits grew from the end of the vine. Standing on a high place, Han Chang saw the faint red light inside the building, clasped his hands together and prayed, then muttered to himself, "May the Forerunner be the hope of the living, his flesh and blood, my food." Chapter 370 Purification Ceremony. Zhang Yi came to the church. At this time, Yuan Kang'ai ignored the turmoil outside and was still carrying out the gift ceremony for the congregation in an orderly manner. This group is basically all Protestants who have just defected recently. After witnessing the miracles performed by Yuan Kang'ai, they all joined in sincerely and became members of the snow worship cult. At this time, the bestowing ceremony was coming to an end, and only a few little boys were left, who were brought to the stage by their parents. They have only come to snow worship sect for a week, but they have all become the most devout believers, the kind who can sacrifice their lives for the snow god. Yuan Kang'ai looked at them, but under the gentle expression, there was a twisted struggle. But this struggle was quickly covered up by her, hiding in the dark depths of her pupils. "Come here, my children." Yuan Kang'ai waved to the boys below. They looked confused, not knowing what their parents were going to do when they sent them here. But when I looked back, I saw the encouraging eyes of my parents. Trust the leader. Everything she does is for your own good. You need to be baptized before you can become qualified snow worshippers. The boys didn't know what to do. They didn't know what they were going to do, but they believed in their parents, so they went forward. Yuan Khan Guy asked a boy to come over and lay down on the altar, and then pressed his right hand lightly on his head. The boy suddenly felt that he had lost all his strength, as if his hands and feet were no longer his own. Don't be afraid, child. There are demons living in your body, and I will get rid of them for you. Yuan Khan Guy had a gentle smile on his face. She took out a sharp dagger in her hand. The pupils of the boy on the stage shrank suddenly, and he was stunned, but at this moment, he had no strength in his body, and he couldn't even make a sound with his vocal cords. The few boys in the audience also looked terrified, not understanding what the so-called exorcism ceremony of the leader is. Soon, it will be fine. Your filth will be purified by me. Yuan Khan Guy smiled, and cut it down with a sharp knife. Blood splattered, and the boy was no longer a boy. He passed out all of a sudden. His eyes lost focus. Yuan Khan Guy placed his right hand above his wound, and after the holy white brilliance flickered, the blood from the wound was stopped. In this way, from now on, you will never become a filthy demon again. Purification is complete. The boy's parents came over and expressed their gratitude to Yuan Khan Guy from the bottom of their hearts. Thank you, the leader, for purifying his body for us, so that he will not be tempted by demons. From now on, this child will be more well behaved and obedient, right? The child's mother looked at Yuan Khan Guy expectantly, thinking that her child has been very naughty since she was a child, and her academic performance is not good. It turned out that it was not because of her education problems, but because the child was haunted by demons, and the mother felt relieved. Yuan Khan Guy nodded. From now on, he will be a kind and good boy. The parents wept with joy, looked at each other with relief, and took the child home. But at this time, the other boys below who had not been purified were already frightened, and even two timid boys collapsed on the ground. Purification, is it to cut off there? I don't want it. I don't want it. That would make you a eunuch. I don't want to be a eunuch. The children were so frightened that they turned their heads and wanted to run away. But at this time, a tall human wall blocked in front of them. They were their favorite parents, and they were also the ones who sent them to the altar with their own hands. You child, why are you so ignorant? We are doing this for your own good. You have been so naughty. It must be because you have a demon in your heart. As long as the leader purifies the demon for you, you will become an obedient boy. Be honest, don't be so ignorant. The parents reprimanded the children with stern faces, but in the eyes of the children, their ferocious faces were as terrifying as demons. Behind him, Yuan Khan Guy's gentle but creepy voice sounded. Next, who should be purified? After the children were purified one by one, their parents thanked Yuan Khan Guy and took the children back. Zhang Yi stood in the distance and watched all this quietly. When everyone saw him coming back, they already knew that they had successfully protected everyone again and couldn't help singing praises loudly. The endowment ceremony ended and the crowd left the church one after another. In the overcrowded church, only Yuan Khan Guy and Zhang Yi were left. Seeing Zhang Yi's covered arm, Yuan Khan Guy slowly walked over and opened his clothes. How did you get hurt so badly? As she spoke, she put her right hand on Zhang Yi's arm and began to treat him. Zhang Yi just let her contain the injury a little bit, then stopped her. You have used your abilities too many times today. Treat me tomorrow. Yuan Khan Guy smiled slightly. His smile was as cold as ice and snow. Who is calling? Zhao Hanglian from Yangsheng Base, Weiding He from Chaoyu Base, or Xingshan Army from Qingpu Base? Zhang Yi covered his arms and replied, it's the Yangsheng Base and Chaoyu Base that jointly attacked. A flash of surprise flashed in Yuan Khan Guy's eyes. Oh, the two of them came to attack us at the same time. Zhang Yi told Yuan Khan Guy all the ins and outs of the matter. After Yuan Khan Guy finished listening, there was a look of surprise in his eyes. In addition to our snow sect and the 4 major bases, there is such a mysterious and powerful force in Xianhe City? Could it be that the destruction of the Zishan base has something to do with them? Zhang Yi said, that mysterious force is related to a man named Zhang Yi. Once we received information from that place, we mentioned this person. It now appears that the inextricable connections have converged into a clear line. That Zhang Yi is a foreigner, and a very powerful foreigner. It can even be said that the entire Xianhe city is at the top level? If not, what did he use to contend against the Zishan base for so long, even leading to the destruction of the Zishan base? Yuan Kangai bowed his head and pondered. However, various evidences show that the destruction of the Zishan base is related to the missile from the Jiangnan region. Zhang Yi nodded. That's true. But even so, it has an inseparable relationship with Zhang Yi. I think this person should not be underestimated. He must hold a powerful force in his hands. And according to the information we received before, the fact that he has a huge amount of supplies in his hands may not be a spoof. It's real. A gleam of light burst out from Yuan Kangai's dark pupils. If that's the case, this person really needs to pay attention. Zhang Yixin came over and asked, do you want to send Daffling over there to test him? Chapter 371 Drugs. Yuan Kangai looked at Zhang Yixin. Oh. Testing? Do you mean to see how big his potential is? Zhang Yixin smiled and said, if he really has enough strength, maybe we can consider wooing him to fight against those bases together. Yuan Kangai's brows stretched out, as if a little moved. Zhang Yixin continued to persuade, in the entire Xianhe city, the sites with real important resources are all occupied by the 4 shelters. Although we have a large number of people in the snow worship cult, our resources are extremely scarce. Although the existence of blood vines allows us to obtain food through replacement. But it is not a long-term solution after all. It's like today, when the 2 bases of Zhaoyu and Yangsheng joined forces to attack, it would be very difficult for us to resist. If it weren't for their scruples and their refusal to fight to the death with us, I'm afraid that the snow worship cult will not be able to survive today's crisis. So, I think we should develop a helper. Zhang Yixin's eyes dimmed, especially we need a helper like us. After thinking for a moment, Yuan Kangai nodded slowly. She thought what Zhang Yixin said was very reasonable. Relying on the current strength of their snow worship cult alone, in a life and death struggle, any of the 3 bases may be able to defeat them. She still needs to procrastinate. Wait long enough to make yourself stronger. Well, let the Daffa decree go and verify his strength. If he really has the ability to fight against the base, maybe from now on, the structure of Xianhe city will undergo earth-shaking changes. Shelter, Zhao Ken's infirmary. She was wearing a white coat and was carefully examining the glass slides under the microscope. Zhang Yi leaned on the table behind her and asked lazily, how is it? Do you know this thing? What Zhao Ken was researching at this time was the stimulant that Zhang Yi had obtained from Gao Yuan and others before. At that time, it allowed ordinary people to instantly have a physique comparable to that of a foreigner, which really shocked Zhang Yi. Therefore, he became very interested in this drug and wanted to study it. If the effect is really good, then he can use it for the people in the shelter later. Even if the side effects are severe, it can save your life at critical times. Or just knowing its medicinal effect, it will be easier to deal with people who possess this medicine in the future. Zhao Ke raised her head slowly, turned around and said to Zhang Yi, this drug is a military stimulant, usually only equipped by soldiers on the battlefield. It is very powerful and can greatly improve a person's physical function, and it can make people stay awake for 3 days and 3 nights. She sighed. I have seen this drug in the teacher's laboratory before, but it is the first time I have seen someone use it. In terms of efficacy, it's more than 10 times stronger than the one I gave you before. Of course, the intensity of the side effects is also enormous. Zhang Yi asked curiously, how big is it? Zhao Ken smiled mysteriously. This drug can only improve the body's utilization of energy and speed up the body's metabolism. It is actually a crazy overdraft. The last time I used it, it's very common to lose more than a dozen catties. And it will make people feel sore all over the body. It takes more than half a month for people with good physique to recover. People with poor physique, she spread her hands, maybe directly and die. Zhang Yi couldn't help but smiled and sighed. Sure enough, there is no free dinner in this world. There really is no such thing as a drug that makes people stronger without side effects. But Zhao Ke frowned slightly after hearing this, and after thinking for a while, said slowly, perhaps, not necessarily. Okay. Zhang Yi stared. Is there really such a thing? Zhao Ke nodded, then shook his head again. I've heard in the past that the military has been researching this kind of drug that can improve soldiers' combat capabilities and try to avoid too many side effects that will affect their continued combat. Although the side effects may not be completely eliminated, they can be reduced to an extremely low level. Of course, the price of this medicine is also outrageously high. So far, it has not become a standard stimulant in the military. Zhang Yi said, it means that we may meet in the future, but the probability is not so high, is it? Okay, just have an idea in mind. He crossed his arms and murmured in a low voice, it seems that we must be cautious when meeting ordinary people in the future. The power of technology cannot be underestimated. Zhao Ke took off her white gloves and was about to clean the experimental equipment. Zhang Yi casually chatted with her about other topics. Ke, do you remember the rat poison I used before? Rat poison? Zhao Ke looked back at him curiously, not understanding why he suddenly mentioned this. The last time you used it was when you were in Yulu community. Do you still have that thing? The smile on the corner of Zhang Yi's mouth was slightly mysterious. It might be useful to keep it. People, it's better to be cautious and be prepared. He touched his nose and asked, you said earlier that its lethal dose is 0.1 grams. If you use a small amount, what effect will it have? Zhao Ke didn't know what Zhang Yi wanted to do, but she still replied truthfully, if it's too small, you don't need to think about it. The body's detoxification function can eliminate it. However, if the dosage is well controlled, the kidneys will not be able to completely eliminate it at around 5%, and it will cause toxicity in the body. Zhang Yi nodded, will you die? Zhao Ke shook her head, of course not. Otherwise, how could there be such a thing as a lethal dose? But she said, it's just that, if you continue to take it, the effect will be completely different. It causes the organs of the body to slowly fail, and, if left untreated, can lead to death. Having said that, Zhao Ke couldn't help but smile. However, in today's harsh environment, the human body itself is very fragile. If you take this drug again, you may have to wait for death slowly. Zhang Yi nodded, so that's the case. What you said is very reasonable. Zhao Ke glanced at him and asked with a smile, could it be that there are mice in the house? Zhang Yi's smile became more and more mysterious. Not in the house, but out there. Zhao Ke looked puzzled. This is a world of ice and snow. How can there be mice outside? I'm afraid you are not in a daze. However, this is not absolute. Maybe there are still mice hiding in the sewer alive. Rats, animals that are accustomed to living in dirty environments, are more capable of surviving than humans in the face of disasters. Zhang Yi shrugged, maybe. Even cats can mutate now, so why can't mice? Maybe one day the mouse will become the master of Bluester, who can tell? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 372. Zhang Yi and Zhao Ke finished chatting and left the infirmary. From the living room, the sound of playing cards could be heard clearly. Zhao Heimei would come here almost every day, calling several women from Zhang Yi's family to play Mahjong together. Facts have proved that no matter what time of day, poker is always the simplest and most accessible form of entertainment. The entire sanctuary is still bright and majestic, full of the atmosphere of the end-time paradise, as if it can always exist in such a stable and peaceful way. No, not as if. Zhang Yi said secretly in his heart, I will definitely be able to live in such a comfortable environment until the end of the world. At this moment, a pleasant and steady voice sounded in my ear. Zhang Yi, you are here. I've been looking for you everywhere. Zhang Yi came back to his senses and fixed his eyes on Liang Yu walking over. He smiled slightly. Look at me, I almost forgot about you. Without Liang Yu saying anything, he took out food for 10 people from the different space and packed it in bags. Liang Yu's face turned slightly red. Thank you. She thanked her, took the food from Zhang Yi's hand, and accidentally touched Zhang Yi's finger, which made her tremble slightly. Zhang Yi said with a smile, why are you being polite to me? As I said, we are our own family when you come. The family is the one who supports each other in the last days, and your business is my business. Ever since Liang Yu came to the shelter, Zhang Yi and everyone around her have been instilling a concept in her. That is, we are the family members who can help together and walk through the end times together. This also draws a clear line with those students who only know how to eat and wait to die. If a person is always in such an environment and is influenced by the people around him, his mentality will easily change. Judging from Liang Yu's changing attitude, she is also slowly accepting this kind of thinking. I understand. Thank you, Zhang Yi. I'm willing to accept my little waywardness. Liang Yu looked up at Zhang Yi with a trace of inexplicable emotion in her eyes. As long as they can be self-reliant like the villagers in Zhujia town, I won't bother you anymore. I promise you. They won't bother me anytime soon. Zhang Yi glanced at the food in her hand and thought to himself, well, it's also a good thing to let them rely on themselves. I can wait slowly, and you don't have to put too much pressure on yourself. Liang Yu bit her lip, but suddenly felt that she was not suitable to act like a little girl in her capacity, so she quickly put on a straight face. Then I'll go first. Well, okay. Go early and come back early. Zhang Yi waved his hands and watched Liang Yu leave the house. At this time, Yang Xingchen came to his side in a wheelchair. Following his gaze and looking at Liang Yu's back, she raised her head and said to Zhang Yi, brother, I think teacher Liang has fallen in love with you. Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows, but only smiled lightly. Recently, he and Liang Yu have had a lot of contact, and they have to practice martial arts together every day. People who practice martial arts will inevitably have bumps and bumps. Liang Yu, who came and went, did see some changes in his eyes. How did Zhao Botting and Aingu get together? Isn't it just for practicing martial arts? It's love. It's just human hormones at work. Everyone has instinctive needs. In the last days, when the sense of crisis is heavy, this instinct to reproduce is also strengthening. Zhang Yi touched his face. What's more, there are only 3 men here in the shelter. In my opinion, the conditions are much better than Uncle Yu and Fatty Zhu. It's strange that she doesn't feel for me. Yang Xingchen tilted her head, and a deep cunning flashed in her eyes. She smiled and said, how about you turn teacher Liang into your girlfriend? With her rigid personality, as long as she recognizes that you are her man, she will be devoted to you. Her eyes flickered, and then she covered it with her hands, and said to Zhang Yi quietly, let me tell you a little secret, Mrs. Liang. She hasn't had a boyfriend yet. This kind of woman who has been single for many years is actually very easy to fall in love with. To put it simply, it's easy to cheat. After Zhang Yi listened, he couldn't help but glance at Yang Xingchen. Good guy, you know a lot. You even cheated on your teacher? Yang Xingchen smiled faintly and crossed her slender and tender fingers on her knees. I just don't want to see her die in vain. With her character, if you don't have my brother to take care of you, she will die in this apocalypse sooner or later. Zhang Yi looked into the distance, and through the one-way glass, he could see her stubborn back. Let's wait until that matter is dealt with. If I really have an intimate relationship with this kind of dead-headed woman, I will only have a headache in the future. Zhang Yi really likes beautiful women, but he was more afraid of trouble. If he had to choose one, he would rather choose freedom. Zhujia town here. After living independently for a period of time, they slowly learned how to fish. Although this process is extremely difficult, once people get used to laziness, letting them move a finger is more uncomfortable than killing them. But when they were so hungry that they couldn't bear it, they had to take to legs to make a living. Fortunately, among the dozen or so students, there are still boys with outstanding physical strength. Among them, Yu Zhaoshan, the man-made alien after transformation, became the main force. Correspondingly, he has also become the person with the most voice in this organization. However, his temperament has always been relatively weak, and he doesn't like things like scheming, so he just follows Liang Yu's order to find food for everyone, and will not use his power to ask for anything excessively. At this time, Wu Chengai, who is good at drilling, came out. He used to be quite influential in the class, and his relationship with Yu Zhaoshan can only be considered average. But now, he is deliberately trying to get closer to Yu Zhaoshan, calling him brother and brother on weekdays. Although Yu Zhaoshan knew what Wu Chengai was thinking, but he was a 19-year-old young man after all, and Wu Chengai's sweet words and compliments made him very useful. He came and went again and again, and he tolerated Wu Chenggai's use of his name to pretend to be a fox. On this day, a group of people gathered around the igloo to enjoy the fire. The fire was not thriving because it was getting more and more difficult to get fuel. Around Zujia town, almost all the dead trees were cut down and all the furniture was burned. The old, weak, women and children left in Zujia town had started to burn their clothes, but they only burned a little while cooking. As for warming themselves by the fire, they didn't even dare to think about it. Damn it, why do we have to live so aggrieved? Wu Chenggaiu gritted his teeth. His eyes were full of resentment. He was wrapped in a thick quilt, wishing he could curl up into a ball. Although the snow house has the function of keeping out the cold, the temperature inside the house is still below zero. After a long time, people are numb from the cold. This was extremely unbearable for Wu Chenggaiu, who was spoiled since he was a child. However, is it really the ultra low temperature that he can't bear the most? Maybe not necessarily. At Shine King Academy, they also lived under the ice for a long time. At that time, he was not as resentful as he is now. The reason why he struggles in pain every day is because he clearly knows that there is a magnificent, warm, and luxurious villa with plenty of food on the other side of the river. There, his teacher and 2 classmates lived happily. People don't suffer from scarcity but from inequality. If everyone is miserable, his mind will be balanced. But seeing others enjoying blessings while he himself suffers, resentment will be born from the heart. When the students next to him heard Wu Chenggaiu's complaint, they also joined the topic. Anyway, they have nothing to do now, they are just living humbly. The class committee member Shen Maog said in a low voice, if you want to blame, you can only blame teacher Liang for being too irresponsible. Since she, Yang Xingxin, and Lu Karen can all enter that shelter, why don't you try to get us in too? To put it bluntly, she still only cares about whether she is living well or not. She doesn't take us to heart. The boy next to him, He Wenxing, sneered. If I knew this earlier, why not let us stay at the Zishan base? It's a bit tiring to be there, but at least someone provides food and it's relatively warm. Even if you die someday, at least you will die in a comfortable environment. He tightened the thick cotton coat on his body. People only know how to cherish after they lose it. If I had known that I would live like this after leaving the Zishan base, I might as well die there. Yi Ocean was sleeping beside him, but when he heard their conversation getting abnormal, he couldn't help frowning. You're almost done. Do you really think death is better than life? He glanced at these classmates, sneered and mocked. If I'll let you experience the experiment process, I believe you will not say such things again. For Liang Yu, Yi Ocean was grateful. Because the pain he has endured is incomprehensible to others, so he cherishes the happiness of living freely now. When Yi Ocean spoke, the others did not dare to refute. But everyone still complained quietly. We are just talking casually. But teacher Liang can also fight for us. How can she bear to watch us suffer? The topic continues. Yi Ocean didn't want to listen anymore, turned around and continued to sleep. Seeing this, the others became bold again. If you want me to say, you should have a good talk with teacher Liang and let her take us into the shelter. That's right. That place is so big, we only need one house. We are not greedy, as long as we have a warm house and food every day. Forget it, teacher Liang dare not. She has become Zhang Yi's person now. Maybe she can enter the shelter, because she traded her body for it. Wow. Is it true? HMPH, that's probably the case. Don't look at teacher Liang who is always serious, but I think she is the sullen type, and she is slutty in her bones. Hahaha, let's talk about this carefully. Chapter 373 Investigating Zujia Town. The students vented their dissatisfaction with Liang Yu unscrupulously through words, but soon they stopped at the same time. Because judging by the time, Liang Yu was about to come to deliver food to them. Sure enough, it didn't take long for Zhang Yi to bring food to the snow house where they lived. Teacher Liang, you are here. We miss you so much. The students looked at Liang Yu with grievances, tears glistening in their eyes. Liang Yu just put the food on the ground and said to them, be careful recently, the surroundings are not very flat. Except for going out to find food, it is best to stay in the igloo at other times. By the way, Zujia town has a lot of cellars for storing food. It's best for you to hide in the cellars. Do you understand? When the students heard these words, they all panicked. Wu Chengyu stood up quickly and said to Liang Yu with a look of fear, "Mr. Liang, since it's so dangerous, why didn't you take us back? Isn't a shelter the safest place?" The other students came to their senses and hurried over to sell their misery, begging Liang Yu to take them back. Seeing their pale faces, Liang Yu couldn't help but think of Yang Xingxin and Lu Karen. Most of these people committed cold violence against the two of them. During this period of time, the relationship between Liang Yu, Yang Xingxin and Lu Karen has improved by leaps and bounds. Firstly, it is because the environment of the end of the world is easy for people to hug together to keep warm. Secondly, Liang Yu used them to make up for her disappointment from Wu Chengyu and others. There is no harm without comparison. As a teacher, she must be more inclined to obedient children. She also couldn't bear the thought that Yang Xingxin and Lu Karen would be saddened if she proposed to take these people to the shelter. And she's no fool. Zhang Yi is gentle and considerate, willing to help her, but what about the others? They have nothing to do with her. She brought back so many burdens. What do people like Zhao Ke think? Anyway, there has been no movement of other forces invading around the shelter recently, so Liang Yu naturally doesn't want to make extra troubles. You can't think about relying on the teacher for everything. You have grown up, and you have to learn to deal with all problems by yourself. Hide in the cellar. Even if a dangerous enemy comes, the main target will not be you. As long as you hide well, there will be no danger. Liang Yu also thought very well. The battle between Zhang Yi and Zishan base was so fierce. If there are other small-scale forces around, they definitely dare not come here to make trouble. If the big forces outside Zishan district and Lujiang district came, the spearhead would also be pointed at Zhang Yi's shelter, who would attack a group of students without resources. Wu Chengyu and others still refused to give up. "Teacher, if danger happens, it will be too late. It's safest to take us to the shelter. Zhang Yi and the others are so powerful, and you are also good at fighting. Isn't it easy to protect us?" The disappointment in Liang Yu's eyes became more and more intense. She didn't explain anything anymore, just sighed softly. "Take care of yourself. Listen to me and hide well." After she finished speaking, she turned and left the igloo. No matter how much the students shouted behind her, they didn't respond. "Teacher Liang. Teacher Liang. Liang. Fuck. Why is this damn woman so cruel?" Wu Chengyu punched the wall angrily. His eyes were full of hatred. "Why do you give us hope, but you also bring us despair?" Yi Zhioshan walked over and took a piece of food on his own. Seeing this, Wu Chengyu also hurried over, pretending to distribute it to everyone. The food that Zhang Yi gave them tasted good. After all, they were all insurance products. They devoured so much that there was not a single grain of rice left. Yangsheng Base and Zhaoyu Base, these two major forces have started to target the so-called mysterious force since they came back from worshipping the Snow Sect. They first conducted a large number of investigations, and it was almost certain that the force was located in the vicinity of Yang Manor and Zujia Town. However, Yangsheng Base is one step ahead. Because Zhang Yi deliberately placed the plateau satellite phone where Liang Yu's students lived, they could directly find the location through the signal and radar. On the side of the Yangsheng Base, the person sent was Dong Hu, who was known as Yang Guan. He is in his 40s and was a professional bodyguard before the end of the world. He is proficient in various fighting techniques and has superb marksmanship. Later, when he awakened his abilities, he became one of Xiao Hong's generals as a matter of course. He was sent for this operation because this person is mature and stable, and he will not act recklessly. Xiao Hongyan was not sure how powerful Zhang Yi was, so the purpose of bringing Dong Hu this time was mainly for investigation, not for offense. Dong Hu led his men, and when they came to the edge of Lujiang district, he asked his men to hide the car, and then proceeded on foot. The snowmobile they remodeled has too many problems, and it is basically equivalent to a vehicle, supported by a large amount of fuel, with a lot of noise. It is too easy to expose the target if you drive over to investigate. However, they are well equipped and carry sufficient food, so they are not worried about problems in foot reconnaissance. They walked cautiously through the ice and snow and followed the instructions on the equipment all the way to the vicinity of Zujia town. From a long distance, they saw the large house built of ice and snow through the telescope. Looking across the river, I also saw the stunned ice barrier. Zhang Yi couldn't help exhaling and sighed. Can this thing really be built by manpower? The thick wall is like a small great wall of ice and snow. As high as 20 meters, the thickness also reached an astonishing 10 meters. Although the main material is ice and a steel skeleton is installed inside, it is thick enough and its defense is amazing enough. Unless this thing is bombarded with large caliber artillery, ordinary individual combat weapons cannot destroy it at all. I seem to understand why they have been able to compete with the Zishan base with the strongest armed forces for so long. Zhang Yi's eyes showed seriousness. He ordered everyone, be careful. This is not an easy opponent to deal with. If we are not careful, our lives will stay here. The soldiers who came out to investigate were all cautious people, so they naturally understood what Zhang Yi meant. Zhang Yi took out the equipment and confirmed that the satellite phone signal of the plateau was within the large snow house in front. Zhang Yi thought for a while and called a clever subordinate over. Go and investigate the situation there first. The subordinate had vigilant eyes and left the main force like a snow ape, heading towards Zhujia town. At this time, the sky was already very dark, and when he acted, he was dressed in white and wore a white cloak, so it was difficult for the naked eye to spot even 10 meters away. The spies came to the edge of Zhujia town cautiously, but did not see any guards. He breathed a sigh of relief, and then continued to use the snow house as a cover to head inside. But along the way, he found that this was not a lively village. The hemispherical snow houses stand like lifeless tombs on the snowy field. 9 out of 10 rooms are empty, and only a few igloos are still blocked by door curtains or wooden boards. The weather was so cold that no one could be seen anywhere, as if all the people here had died. No one can be seen, and there are no guards yet. It seems that there is no large-scale organization here. The spy made a judgment in his heart. If there really are armed forces, there must be people in shifts on guard to prevent enemies from invading. And no one is on guard, which can only explain one thing: they don't have such ability at all. Just to be alive is to do my best. The spies breathed a sigh of relief. Since there were no powerful enemies nearby, their actions would be safe. After all, their main purpose is reconnaissance, not combat. Slowly, he approached the plateau satellite phone and found that it was an ordinary snow house. The spy confirmed the location from a distance and did not dare to approach, but chose to retreat quietly. After all, the people living in this igloo may be the ruthless people who killed Gao Yuan and Wang Ruxuan's teams. On the other side, Zhang Yi looked in the direction of Zhu Jiazhen with serious eyes. He reminded his subordinates, there can be extremely dangerous masters hiding here. Once we find anything abnormal, we will retreat immediately. The subordinates behind him nodded with serious expressions. People who can easily kill Gao Yuan and Wang Ruxuan's 2 teams will not take much effort to kill them. Not long after, the spy returned here. He reported to Zhang Yi, who with a look of joy, "Head, there is a deserted village in front. There is no security around, and there are no living people in it. I found the location of the signal source, and I didn't startle the snake." Zhang Yi's face was obviously a little surprised. What? How could this happen? He repeatedly confirmed the situation of Zhu Jiazhen to the spies, and his doubts became deeper and deeper. It is impossible for the leaders of the 2 bases to be afraid, and the powerful enemy that cannot attack the Zishan base for a long time. It is impossible to have such a common defense force. At this moment, his gaze caught sight of the ice and snow barrier across the river. Zhang Yi suddenly realized something. Could it be that the truly powerful forces are behind that line of defense? But why is the location of the signal source here? Could it be a trap? Zhang Yi was very puzzled, but since he came, he at least wanted to get some useful information before going back. So he took his men and began to slowly move towards Zhujia town. It was not long after nightfall at this time. The sky was dark and everyone fell asleep early. After all, the quilt is their best means of heating, and they try not to come out if they can't come out. Zhang Yi himself didn't expect that. After being cautious for so long, they finally found a group of sleeping young people in that snow house. It can't be said that he was defenseless. It can only be said that he slept deader than a pig. Zhang Yi glanced at the device in his hand and confirmed that the source of the signal was here. For a while, He was also a little confused. Chapter 374 Captive. Although Zhang Yi suspected that there was something tricky here. But since we are here, we must first find the satellite phone on the plateau, and then arrest these people, and ask them clearly. Go. As soon as he gave an order, the members of the investigation team acted quickly, to control the sleeping students. Ocean's intuition is relatively keen, and he was the first to notice that someone was coming. He opened his eyes suddenly, and saw that no one knew anyone who appeared in the snow house, and immediately became vigilant. Who are you? Get out of here. Without further ado, an investigator bit his neck like a pair of iron tongs with a huge hand, and directly threw him heavily against the wall. If you dare to say another word, I will break your neck, he said coldly. Ocean was dumbfounded. Although he is a reformed person, physically stronger than ordinary people, but the person in front of him is obviously a seasoned veteran. Ocean gritted his teeth and let out an angry roar. Exerting all his strength, he actually broke his palm and kicked him 3 or 4 meters away. Ha! Alien! A cold light flashed in Zhang Yi's eyes. Ocean knew that he was not the opponent of so many people, so he planned to run away. But Zhang Yi's tall figure stood in front of him. Get out of here. Ocean gathered all his strength and punched Zhang Yi in the face with a punch. But the next moment, a fiery red light flashed in front of his eyes, and he felt his vision blurred for a moment, and he felt an extremely severe pain in his abdomen. Zhang Yi's fist was burning with flames and hit his abdomen, and then the clothes on his body burst into flames. Cough. Ocean spat out a mouthful of blood, and fell to his knees on the snow, unconscious. After the cotton coat on his body was burned, the combat uniform of the Zishan base inside was exposed. Zhang Yi's face was a little dignified. Could it be that these people are the remnants of the Zishan base? Do it quickly, don't delay, it will be difficult when they wake up. Wu Chengyu and the others were still asleep when they were controlled by the people brought by Zhang Yi. Don't move. If you dare to move, I will kill you. If you dare to make a sound, I will kill you. The people in the investigation team were very cautious. Since they found the satellite phone signal of the plateau here, they thought that these young people must be not simple. Therefore, they didn't hold back when they shot, and pressed them firmly to the ground, pressing their heads deeply into the quilt. These students were still asleep when they were suddenly pinned down with their arms cut behind their backs. The severe pain made them cry out and struggle non-stop. But after being threatened by the people of the investigation team with a fierce tone, they immediately trembled like sifting chaff. Only then did Zhang Yi realize that this group of people were basically muggles. Only Ocean has some extraordinary strength, but he doesn't look too strong. The students were all terrified. They were bound and knelt on the icy snow, their bodies shaking like sieves. Facing these people they had never met before, they were afraid that their lives would be taken away. The investigation team dug out a satellite phone from under a bedboard and handed it to Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi confirmed it, and it was indeed the satellite phone on the plateau. He raised the satellite phone in his hand. His cold eyes swept over the arrested students. Where did you get this thing? But where have these students seen this thing? They were all dumbfounded, and no one could tell why. Zhang Yi said with a cold face, this thing is in your house. You say you don't know? He walked up to a student, grabbed his neck, and picked him up. That student blushed like a little chicken. Don't kill me please. I really don't know anything. You are really not afraid of death. Zhang Yi glanced at the other students, and suddenly exerted force with his right hand. Hearing a click, the student's neck was snapped. The others turned even paler in fright, and several girls even fainted to death because of excessive fear. If you don't say anything else, he will be your fate. After Zhang Yi finished speaking, he scanned the crowd, trying to find some clues from them. And Wu Chengyu, who seemed rather shrewd at first glance, was immediately noticed by him. This kind of smart person often reveals himself unconsciously. For example, at this time, everyone else was scared and desperate, but Wu Chengyu's eyes were wandering, still thinking about how to survive. How could an experienced person like Zhang Yi fail to discover him? He walked up to Wu Chengyu and picked him up immediately. The next one is up to you. Say it, or don't say it. Under the threat of Zhang Yi's death, Wu Chengyu's brain was working rapidly, and finally he thought of a way to survive. He shouted, "I know who brought this thing. It's Zhang Yi. It must be Zhang Yi." Hearing the name Zhang Yi, Dong Hu's eyes suddenly became serious. Because when he came, Zhao Hanglian and Zhu Qingting reminded him that, if he meets a man named Zhang Yi, he must avoid it carefully. It is very likely that the Zishan base will perish in his hands. Dong Hu asked in a low voice, "What is your relationship with Zhang Yi?" Wu Chenggai knew that he was insignificant and useless, and he had to prove his worth if he wanted to survive. Therefore, he deliberately said, "There is a woman named Liang Yu next to Zhang Yi. We are Liang Yu students. She takes special care of us. Don't kill me. Keeping me is of great use. If you are Zhang Yi's enemies, you can use us as a bargaining chip. Liang Yu loves us very much and will not let us die." Dong Hu frowned slightly. Wu Chenggai's words made him very suspicious. If your teacher cared so much about you, why would he keep you in this place instead of taking you to live in Zhang Yi's house? Wu Chenggaiu explained nervously, "We don't want to cause trouble for teacher Liang. We are all grown-ups, and we have to rely on our own ability to live well. But don't look at it like this. Teacher Liang will bring us food every day. If you don't believe me, look at the lunchbox over there." He pointed to the lunchbox on the table. Dong Hu glanced at it and trusted Wu Chenggaiu's words in his heart. After hesitating for a moment, he made a decision. The purpose of this trip is to find the satellite phone left on the plateau and then inquire about Zhang Yi's information. Now that the people around Zhang Yi have been captured, they can be taken back and tortured slowly. Dong Hu immediately ordered people to tie up all the students and then took them back to the leader Zhao Hanglian for disposal. As for what was behind the tall ice and snow city wall, he didn't dare to go and check. Perhaps with his cautiousness, he already smelled a hint of danger. Chapter 375 Then Fight. Inside the shelter, in Zhang Yi's room, a reminder sound came from the mobile phone, and he asked Tuahua to place the satellite phone in Zujia town. As long as the signal is far away, he will receive the reminder. Zhang Yi turned on the phone, watched the signal slowly go away, and slowly narrowed his eyes. Sure enough, what should come is here. He asked Tuahua to put satellite phones in the students' rooms, which killed two birds with one stone. First, you can use external force to clean up those troublesome students. Second, he asked Yang Xingxin to help tamper with the satellite phone so that he could monitor its location in real time. In this way, as long as someone comes to take it away, Zhang Yi can determine the location of the opponent's base camp. He walked to the window and looked in the direction of Zujia town in the snowstorm. A sharp light flashed in his eyes. How will things go? Now I'm a little bit more looking forward to it. He killed the aliens from the two bases of Zhaoyu and Yangsheng. It is impossible for the other party to treat this grievance as nothing happened. There will definitely be contact between him and the two major bases. Negotiate or fight. All the premises based on strength. Zhang Yi has full confidence in the defensive power of the sanctuary and will not be afraid of the joint attack of the two. But it's also good for him to be able to value peace. Thinking of this, Zhang Yi walked out of the room and went to the console to find Yang Xingxin. Yang Xingxin spends most of her time at the console. She needs to protect the shelter's network security to prevent external intrusions from stealing their important information. In the last days, everyone is a hunter with a gun, hunting each other in the dark, and the relationship between hunter and prey and intelligence is the most critical factor in determining the strength gap between the two sides, not one of them. Most of the time, it is even more important than armed forces. Zhang Yi defeated the strong with the weak, and the anti-killing Zishan base is the best example. Zhang Yi came to the console, and Yang Xingxin was wearing a black lalita costume and sitting in a wheelchair, eating potato chips, while watching the screen intently. What is shown above is not any complicated data, but a classic film and television drama. Hearing the sound of the door opening, Yang Xingxin quickly turned off the video. She knew that the person who came must be Zhang Yi, because only Zhang Yi, and she had the authority to enter the console, and Zhang Yi's authority was higher than hers. Brother Zhang Yi, you are here. Yang Xingxin smiled sweetly. Zhang Yi nodded with a smile, walked over, and stroked her soft hair. Won't it be boring to watch a movie here alone? It's okay. I just pass the time, but I'm not lazy, Yang Xingxin said with an obedient look on her face. If he didn't understand her character, Zhang Yi might have really thought that she was a silly and sweet little girl. Sitting next to Yang Xingxin, Zhang Yi asked with a smile, "How is the research on the data in the satellite phone that I gave you a few days ago? Is there any important information?" Analyzing data is a time-consuming process, because artificial intelligence still can't tell what kind of information is useful to Zhang Yi. For example, a photo of a simple meal. Human beings can use it to judge the living standard of the Yangsheng base and infer their living conditions. Because of this, Yang Xingxin screened them one by one manually. Even the huge amount of data obtained by the Zishan base has not been sorted out yet. Yang Xingxin said to Zhang Yi, "These people are very cautious, and the satellite phone has not been used for a long time, so the information is relatively scarce. But through the chat records, you can confirm the identity of the person you killed. His name is Gao Yun. He is the cousin of Zhao Hanglian, the leader of the Yangsheng base, and the captain of a team." Hearing this, Zhang Yi couldn't help but put his hands on his forehead. How could it be such a coincidence? He accidentally killed the relatives of the leader of the Yangsheng base. It seems that this matter is difficult to resolve. Yang Xingxin smiled lightly. "It's just a cousin, not a real brother. It's hard to say what the relationship between them is. Anyway, with her feelings for her cousin are very ordinary." Zhang Yi shrugged. "We don't know the relationship between the family. In short, just be prepared." Yang Xingxin continued, "In addition, according to his chat records, the Yangsheng base and Chaoyu base are closely related. These are all information obtained through chatting with some people in Yangsheng base. There is no accurate source of information for the specific situation." She looked at Zhang Yi and said with some vigilance, "Brother, if this is the case, we may need to face the joint attack of two Al-Qaeda organizations at the same time." Zhang Yi took a deep breath, then slowly lay down on the chair. He said calmly, "I've thought about this, and it's nothing more than the worst unfolding that can happen. However, since the protracted battle with the Zishan base, my fear of these large organizations has disappeared. They are all in charge of the rebel army, and if they don't get big weapons like large yield missiles, they won't pose too much threat to us." Having said that, he slowly narrowed his eyes. "From the bottom of my heart, I also hope to play against them. Only in this way can they understand that the site of Zishan base now belongs to me, Zhang Yi. They are not allowed to cross the boundary and disturb my life. Take it once, and let them understand our strength, so that everyone can live a peaceful life in the future." Zhang Yi now is not the same as he was then. His men are strong, and all of them are top talents. Moreover, after obtaining all the weapons of the Zishan base, a line of defense integrating offense and defense was created. As long as he doesn't take the initiative to attack a certain force, in terms of his ability to defend and counterattack, he is not afraid of anyone in Xianhe City. Yang Xingxin looked at Zhang Yi, who was full of confidence but cautious, with a smile on his lips full of admiration. "By the way, brother Zhang Yi, their chat records also mentioned some things about Baeksujiao. Although it has nothing to do with us, I still want to tell you." "Oh?" Zhang Yi raised his eyebrows. He didn't like the organization of Baeksujiao. Strictly speaking, he only advocates Taoism's style of cultivating this life and going down the mountain to save the people in troubled times. Other religions, in his view, are just means for some people to escape reality. As for the snow worship cult, an inexplicable new sect developed from abroad and transformed into a new sect that uses human despair and ignorance to expand its power. It will definitely not be a good thing. Tell me, what happened to them? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.